Hello, and we are live with episode 12 of season 7 of The Sausage Factory. I'm your moderator, Pizzell, and joining me tonight, I have got live with episode 12 of season. All right, let's start this over again. Let's start over again. We're gonna stop. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yes, we are live for the third time with episode 12 of season 7 of the Sausage Factory. I'm your moderator, Pizzell. Joining me tonight, I've got Eric. What's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, Piz. I'm doing great, man.
Haven't seen you on you guys. Yeah, I haven't seen you on in a while. How's everything going?
Good. Just work travel. And we do these on Thursdays, and so if I don't have to, I don't like to be traveling home on a Friday because if my flight gets delayed, that pushes me into like a Saturday. So I try to keep my travel week like Monday through Thursday, and sometimes it just doesn't work. But this week it worked out, and I'm glad I could jump on. I always like to hang with you guys.
Ah, very cool. Very cool. Well, good to see you. Good to see you. Also joining me tonight's Jay the Stingray. What's up, Stingray?
How's it going, guys? Glad to be here as always.
What are we drinking tonight, Jay?
This is some Maxwell House blend.
That's good stuff.
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Nice. Very nice.
Still a little hot, so I can't drink it yet.
Be a man, Jay.
Yeah. I'm not one of those guys that just puts scalding hot coffee in their mouth and then peels the dead skin off later.
I've never understood that. When my wife eats pizza, she like reheats it to like magma temperatures and then complains later, like, oh, the roof of my mouth is burning. Right. Oh, I can't imagine why that happened.
Yeah, I never get that either. Like when I've not drank coffee in a long time. I used to drink coffee every day at work, but I've kind of stopped. But I never understood those people who like they poured it straight out of the pot into the cup and were just sipping on it. I'd be like, whoa.
Yeah.
You must not have any nerves in your mouth. You've burned them out a long time ago. You know what I mean?
I've heard a lot of stories like that's what it means to be a man.
I
gotta man up and burn your mouth.
Yeah, no thanks. No thanks. I'll let it cool off just a little and then, go at it. But
do one of these numbers.
There you go. There you go. Cool it down. And joining me tonight, sporting some new headgear, Lauren. What's up, Lauren?
New headgear, new hand gear. We're doing well. Not really. And beginning of a cold. Yeah, it's all hitting all at once. The season has changed. It's beautiful out. My garden has sunflowers already coming up in it, and I guess all is right. My garden, by the way, is a huge garden that is made from telephone poles to keep the deer out. And it is a huge garden that is filled about 90% with pumpkins.
Nice.
So they haven't started coming up yet. It should be next week. I'll start seeing them. But this fall, I should have more pumpkins than any human being should be allowed to have.
Your dedication to the horror spirit is just unparalleled.
It's unreal.
Grow your own pumpkins.
Yeah, I've got like a beautiful. I forget what kind of bush it is, but it's sprouting these beautiful pink and yellow blossoms, and the honeybees are all over it, and the butterflies are all over it, and it's so beautiful outside my house. And and then I walk into, this evil within, and it's such a juxtaposition. But yeah, anyway, how have you guys been? Have you seen any movies since we were last together? I know Eric, it's been a while since we've had you on the show. I'm sure you've seen Endgame. Maybe a couple other good movies you want to tell us about.
I mean, Endgame would be the most prominent one I saw. I've been so I went to the theater, saw that, liked it, and I checked out you guys talking about it last week or the week before. Time's getting away from me, whenever that was. But mostly I've been watching older stuff. Like I've been catching up on Deadwood because Deadwood, the movie, is coming out end of this month. So I'm psyched about that. But yeah, no, I don't think it's been too exciting on the movie side for me other than Endgame.
Okay. Stingray, Lauren, you guys see anything this week?
I did finally make it to the theater, and I got to catch the film It's called Ugly Dolls.
Oh,
That was a
Wasn't that a kids movie or
it's a
something?
kids movie. Yeah.
Ah, okay. So you took the girls to that one, huh?
my understanding, the best way to describe that is 89 minutes.
It was more like 85, I believe. They actually reference it in the film. Surprisingly enough, I stayed awake the entire time, which I surprised everyone by doing that. So, but I waited, I think, 45 minutes in line at concession because of Endgame. So, thanks for that.
Have we got a tally on Endgame yet? Is it now the biggest grossing movie of all time? It's not yet. Okay.
No, I saw James Cameron congratulated them for beating out Titanic, but I don't think they officially are number one yet.
Okay.
I'm bringing it up. Give me a second.
I've heard people argue about that. There may have been someone on the show say, those other films didn't run, 24-hour screenings and stuff. So you really can't, compare them with the length of time it's taken.
So,
but Titanic ran for like a year. So how do you compare?
But it took it a lot longer to get there, right? So
I have big problems with it at the time. Anyone wants to adjust earnings for films, I have a lot of big problems with that. For one thing, they go with an average price for a film, and that's simply not true geographically. Like what a film plays in Missouri for as a price as opposed to New York City is greatly different. Also,
right.
Certain films, like kids' films, will be traditionally sold heavily into matinee, which has a different price structure than the evening shows. Yep. Whereas a horror film didn't probably have matinee showings in the 80s at all. So all of its business was being done at 2 shows, the 7 and the 9. To compare the past to now, it just doesn't make any sense. And the economy is not stagnant. It doesn't move only in one direction. There's times when our money is worth significantly less because, say, of an oil crisis. So if you're going to compare 1979's movie performance with now, we got to realize someone that decided to go to the movies in 79 was paying probably $25 then to drive to the theater and back. So it's just I have big problems when you ever see those adjusted for inflation numbers. It's just it's a shit show.
Because like you say, even adjusting for inflation, it's still not common variables across all the things. Like, I mean, let's not turn this to a math symposium, but I get what you mean. Like, and to me, what resonates, I think, most with what you said is the fact that in the 80s, movies would only play like a set number of times a night. Like you say, maybe there were 2 shows, whereas the way movies work now, you can have movies playing all day long. There are multiple theaters. It's not apples to apples.
No, in fact, the 7 and 9 was a very typical like showtime schedule for most theaters. But if you had a specifically longer film, and they actually cleaned the theaters, by the way, so there was a half hour between the shows because they cleaned the theaters. As a result, you had a 2-hour movie. You didn't have a 9 o'clock show. It would be a 9:30 show. That limits the amount of people through the week that are going to show up, because then you're no longer talking about getting out at 11 and getting to bed. Now you're talking about getting at 11:30, 12.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of variable.
When did the Thursday night showing start? Because that hasn't always been around, right?
No.
Like,
is that like within the last 10 years?
I know I saw Iron Man, and I know Batman Begins, I think, like that, and Dark Knight. So, but before that, I don't remember it. But I may just been out of the loop.
I remember for Star Wars Episode 3, which would be 2005. So Batman would have been even a year before that, because I think that's 2004. But I remember with Episode 3, I still had I could go Thursday night, but it was like the midnight show. It was late. Mm-hmm. Whereas now you can, heck, sometimes there are Wednesday night shows, but they don't make you come in at midnight. Like, again, when I saw Avengers on opening night on the Thursday, I went to a 7 o'clock show, and there was a 6 o'clock show before the one I saw. When did that start? Because it almost seemed like there was some sort of distribution thing where it had to be at midnight. Like, it had to technically be opening day or something.
They're following the new rules of Black Friday. You know what I mean? That's what it seems like.
Oh, okay.
Because now, as my girlfriend took her daughter to see Endgame Thursday evening, and the way that she explained it to me, I'm not sure who explained this to her, was that they had they'd closed the theater. They'd closed the theater down for the day.
Mhm.
Therefore, ending business on Thursday after 6 p.m. or whatever the time was, they could officially count that as Friday, as the new business day Friday. That was, I don't know who told her that, but that's the kind of the way she explained it to me. So therefore, they started screening Endgame at 6 p.m. on Thursday evening.
So they're reporting all of these sales as Friday sales.
I
see.
don't know. I guess I don't know.
The distributor office was closed and needed their numbers in by 6 p.m. every night. So what happens is anything you sold after that counted for the next day. But this is all like kind of just out of time because ever since digital distribution began, it doesn't matter anymore. It was all about you could email or even whatever the technology is, the numbers in at any point, and it wouldn't make a difference now. But it used to be someone on a phone literally taking your numbers down. The business has changed a lot. Yeah, it's probably in the last 15, 18 years, things have really changed. One thing to keep in mind is one of the reasons you only used to get a very finite amount of showings of the film that we don't think about anymore is a 35 millimeter print degrades every time you show it. And some of these prints were very well worn. So the actual distributors did not want certain films shown more than a few times in a day because that means they're going to have to strike new prints that much earlier. And that costs money back to them, especially if the house was only going to show it. If you're going to show a 35 millimeter print to 6 people in an audience, the distributor would rather have taken 0 for it. The exhibitor, different story. They want everything they can get out of that print. So that was the struggle for a long time. Now that we're digital, it doesn't matter.
Right.
There's no cost. There's no degradation of the print.
Let's see. Somebody Joe Bob Tarhill says Endgame has now made $652.9 million. It's 6th highest grossing domestic of all time. Max Punishment says Box Office Mojo adjusts for inflation.
Well, right, but it isn't even kind of the point that Lauren was making is that even adjusting for inflation isn't quite an accurate.
Right, exactly.
Like, yes, you're adjusting for money, but if Titanic had been able to be shown the same way that Endgame is being shown, right, again, like 24 hours a day, would Titanic still be well in the lead? Like, I don't know, but we can't say because that's not how they showed movies in 99 or 2000 or whatever, 98, whatever the hell that was.
Yeah.
But the films don't get the release window they used to get either. I mean, you can't hold on to screens in your 6th and 7th week.
Well, and that was my point, is that like Titanic, I remember, was Titanic out for like 9 months? I remember because this was when I was in like 8th grade or 7th grade. It felt to me like Titanic was in the theater for one entire grade of my life.
Pretty much, much like Scream, its initial release was not a success. And then they re-released it 3 months later with a new advertising campaign, and they drudged out all the positive reviews, and they made it the hit that it is now. But you see, that's something that could never happen now either, because the pre-release on the home video formats and streaming are so available from day of release of the film. You couldn't mess with it. You could not back the film. So the business has just changed, and that's why I think that anytime you try and adjust, it doesn't make sense. Gone with the Wind is the best example. Like, people are always talking about Gone with the Wind will never be defeated for most. Yes, that's true. But many theaters back then, you actually paid tickets for your family, not individual people. Can you imagine that kind of value today?
No.
So it's just a different world. Yeah. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah. Let's see what's going on. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lauren. I'm sorry. Drive-ins
were once a big player. And that changes the dynamic because honestly, how many people were being sneaked in cars or whatever. It's all different.
Well, let's see what's going on out in the chat tonight. Shout out to Barbecue Network, Manigatio, Joe Bob Tarhill. Let's see who else is in the chat. CJM753BC, although he told me that I was not a pimp, which that's hyperbole. Anthony Anderson, how are you doing tonight, sir? Our buddy Chris Wins in the chat. What's up, Chris? Hope you're doing well. Joe Caraluzzo, what's up? Max Punishment. Our old buddy Max is in the chat tonight. Josh O'Brien. Hey, Josh O'Brien, what's up? Borderline 11 OG. Movie Man 95. How's it going, Movie Man? Adam Bomb Cinema in 3D. What's up? How's it going, man? Johnny Dean. Hello, Johnny Dean. The White Trash Jedi is back with us tonight. What's up, White Trash Jedi?
Love that name.
I know, great name. And Steve. What's up, Steve? Hope you're doing well, buddy. Let's begin by wishing Friday the 13th a very happy 39th birthday. The film was released on this day back in 1980.
Oh, wow. I didn't even realize that.
Right. And 39 today for Friday the 13th.
Hardly showing her age.
I'd say it actually aged really well compared to others.
I actually think because of its setting, Friday the original, it feels to me, has something of a timeless quality. Like, you don't really miss the fact that people don't have cell phones, or it feels to me like, because they're way out in the woods in some little small town, it kind of feels like it really could be any time. Again, other than like the haircuts and the clothes, but generally speaking, they do a good job of keeping a pretty timeless quality to it.
Yeah, they do.
Even the clothes and the haircuts in that movie are not really that off-putting. I mean, you don't have huge aqua-netted hair. I mean, I don't know. You have flannel. I mean, you have jeans.
The women and the guys had some serious 70s coiffs, I think, going on. Like, because even, was it Annie? Like, Annie had, not Annie. If anything, Annie's hair is okay, but Alice, that's what I was thinking. I don't know, Alice kind of has that weird, like, 70s half moon, like, hanging off the back of her head. I don't even know how to describe that. I'm pretty sure my dad had that hair when he was...
It's not as, like Lauren said, it's not quite as jarring as some other 80s slasher movies where it's like 80s overload. You know what I mean?
Part 5.
Part 5
could only be...
I'm just going to say it because we know.
Well, I was actually referencing other slasher movies, not just the Friday 13th movies, but I mean, like, there's so many that are just like 80s overload.
Yeah.
But yeah, 39 years ago, Friday the 13th was released, and wow, from meager beginnings, it spawned so much. So I mean, yeah. Getting some fuzz from somebody, some static. But yeah, also, and this news just broke. Ilphonic, part of the, I think one half of the developers who brought us Friday the 13th, the game, just announced that they are working on a Predator video game with Fox. And they just released a little teaser trailer. What's it? I think it's called Predator Hunting Ground or something like that.
Yep.
So yeah. So I guess in that game, when if you're playing as Predator and one of your quarry glitches onto a roof, you can just jump onto the roof as Predator because that's what Predator can do. So there you go. 2020 is the release date for Predator. I think it's hunting. I don't know. The Ilphonic Predator game, we'll just call it.
Predator Hunting Grounds.
Hunting Grounds, okay. There you go. So yeah. Well, let's dive in and start talking about some stuff today. Something else that just happened today, as a matter of fact, is the first teaser trailer, although it was pretty extensive to be considered a teaser, for It Chapter 2 dropped today. Now, have you guys all seen the trailer?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Cameron just joined us. How's it going, Cameron?
Good.
The It Chapter 2 trailer dropped today, the teaser trailer, whatever. What'd you guys think?
Wasn't that, at least the beginning of it, wasn't that shown recently at a convention somewhere? Because I didn't see that footage because I don't think it was, or at least I didn't find it online anywhere. But I thought, effectively creepy scenes seem to carry a lot of the mood of the first movie.
It also is a recreation of the scene in the TV movie.
Yeah.
It was shown at a convention. I don't remember which convention it was, but it was shown at a convention.
It's the one for the theater distributors where they get everybody in Las Vegas and the Rock comes out and does presentations, and that's where they showed the Suspiria one where the dancers footage and all that stuff.
Okay.
So that nothing that they show there really ever drops. It's just a way of teasing the distributors of the theaters to say, like, yes, I want to book that movie. Like looking at the receipts for it Chapter 1 didn't just automatically cement that anyway. I mean, they didn't have to show them anything. How would you like to make $100 million this weekend?
I was glad to see like all the fully adult, like grown up characters. So far, all you see like screenshots online of behind the scenes footage.
How do you guys feel about the casting?
I think it's great casting.
Really?
Yeah.
It's great casting. Yeah.
Overall, I think it's good. I think Jessica Chastain, she does have a reputation online for being a huge SJW. But see, people were calling for another actress. I can't remember her name, but because this director had worked with her in Mama, they knew that she's going to be cast. What I love is they're hedging their bets. It's an adult cast, but they know that the adult section is weaker than the first part. And so there's going to be a lot of kids stuff in this movie too. And that is going to carry over their $100 million opening. If it was just the adults, I think it would be big, but I think that people love this whole Stranger Things, type of vibe we got going on now that I think and it's the TV movie did the same thing. They brought in the kids a little bit, but I guarantee you the kids will be 40% of this movie.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. There'll be plenty of flashbacks to the kids. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
No doubt about that. Yeah.
I mean, even the teaser already had some of that.
But what they did with this teaser was great, Eric. Was great because they didn't just show the kids in just arbitrary flashbacks. It looks like they're going to parallel each other, which is always great.
That's what the book does too.
Yeah, I would say that's basically the book. So it's interesting if that's going to be their approach. Maybe they'll try and adopt that to some extent, even though the first book was pretty comprehensively about, minus the child orgy, about the child part of the It book. By the way, Cameron, I would love for you to find out who else they were thinking of for Beverly's role, because my memory is that people were clamoring for Jessica Chastain. She was the one people were saying, hey, she should be adult Beverly. So if there was someone else, I remember hearing about them.
Yeah, I think it was Molly Ringwald.
No way.
I didn't joke.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, so the teaser, it begins with the adult Beverly, played by Jessica Chastain. She returns to the home that she grew up in with her father. There's a strange old woman there. Things get stranger as they go along. The woman is clearly Pennywise. The old woman appears to attack Beverly completely naked, which that in of itself is just really freaky and scary.
Yes.
And then we get some flashes of sequences from the movie, and I thought it looked really freaking good.
I thought it looked good too. The naked woman, of course, reminds me of that M. Night Shyamalan movie, with the grandparents.
Oh God.
The Visit. But Eric, the ones that the fans were clamoring for was Amy Adams.
Amy Adams. I don't want to be. First of all, I think Amy Adams is awesome. I just think she's a little old for what the movie's supposed to be.
I don't think that people were saying Jessica Chastain shouldn't play the role. I think that sometimes some actors have a personality online that's what creates their detractors, not necessarily their acting.
I don't remember her being so active like that.
Well, she just came out against Game of Thrones like yesterday.
No. I don't mean present day. I've heard her talking for a while. I mean back when it came out and people were talking about like, oh, hey, if there's a sequel and who should play Beverly. I just don't remember her being some presence online that people are attacking and making
she had some other. Not long ago, she had something else. I don't remember. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But I just, I like Jessica Chastain as an actress. I think she's a really good actor. I just, please God, keep your politics to yourself. At least until after. Keep your politics to yourself until after September of this year. You know what I mean? After the movie releases, then you can come out with whatever you want. You believe politically. Just not now.
No, I say in general.
Don't ruin it. Chapter 2, Jessica Chastain. Please, God, don't ruin it.
The thing is, she really bothered me during the whole Zero Dark 30 thing, because it just, that character is like a no nonsense. I know where everything is, and I know the truth, and Bin Laden's here, and the truth of the matter is they didn't know, and they that character is so irritating, because that of course he was there, because we know history, but at the time they didn't know it. But she's got the truth of the conviction. I thought the way they wrote that character and the way she chose to play that character was just way over the top, and it basically became Call of Duty, the home office edition, basically. But I remember when Chapter 1 was done, Grace Randolph on the internet just was like, well, obviously Beverly's going to be Jessica Chastain because of the mama thing. I mean, there was just, there's no way she even had to audition for the part. She was just like, here, you want to play it? Good. And that's the thing. It's like, I'm glad they got who they got for the adults. However, because they know that the real star of this is Chapter 2. Right. I mean, Bill Hader, that's a great bit of casting for that role. And as I said in our group chat earlier, I think the only mistake this movie has made so far is taking away Mike's entire purpose of the story. I mean, and the fact that he was the one that stayed behind, he was the one that remembered everything and worked in the library, and he knew the whole town of Derry. Taking that away from Mike and giving it to another character is, one, it's terrible. He's the only African American real character in the movie, and two, it's what, I don't know. To me, they took away a cool factor of the whole story.
They gutted his, to your point earlier about, maybe 40% of the movie could be the kids. Maybe that's what they layer into this movie. Like, he's still back in Derry, and they layer in the history of like him doing that as like a through line for his character in this story.
So he didn't know it beforehand. He would theoretically have taken that history and learned it for the future, for where he is now, right?
Yeah, like something like, I'm just guessing. I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to, because I agree with you that that's actually a pretty important plot point in the book, just of the story, that he's the one guy who kind of is sort of like the keeper of the flame of like what they're doing. And so, I think when they made the first movie, if I remember correctly, the fact that it was just the massive success it was kind of shocked them. So I think they were kind of trying to make a movie that was self-contained enough within itself that you could just tie it off at the end and say, well, we made a good movie, we liked it. Not enough people came to see it, but the ones who did enjoyed it, and go home and enjoy your families. But now that they get the chance to do this sequel, maybe they'll pull that through. The story.
Yeah, I agree with you, Eric. The only thing that bothers me about these recent Stephen King adaptations, this and Pet Sematary, is they're making these huge changes in story, right? The thing we're talking about, Mike, the whole thing with the who gets killed in Pet Sematary, spoilers. To me, it's like, I don't feel like the filmmakers have a right to do this, because this is not their property. They're adapting a book. And so to make a change that huge, especially like flipping like who dies in Pet Sematary, then don't call it Pet Sematary, because that's not what it is.
Here's what I think upsets me more than the big changes, the little changes. Like in what was it, Secret Window, the character in the book had a dog. The character in the movie has a cat. And that's, that's creative, that's like, I'm adding my own creative touch to, that's like the director. I mean, like, why you couldn't, what's the point of those little changes like that really upset me. Like if you're going to subvert expectations, and we'll get into subverting expectations here when we start talking about Game of Thrones shortly, but when you're going to throw a curveball like that out there, I think that that would have worked really well in the Pet Sematary remake if they hadn't shown us the curveball in the trailer. You know what I mean? If they hadn't spoiled it in the trailer, it would have worked, I think, in the movie. But the big changes I don't mind. It's the little changes that really, like the dog from a dog to a cat. That just to me just really, like, I remember watching that movie and I'd read the short story and he's got a cat instead of a dog. I'm just like, why? Like that for some reason that totally took me, that like pissed me off. I couldn't enjoy the movie beyond that point. Not that it's a great movie anyway, but whatever. Anyway,
So I guess I'm the voice of dissent here. But I thought that Chapter 1 was the best version of what I consider to be a horrible novel, to be honest with you. I think it was the novel that turned me off King and made me look out for different voices, because there's a lot of cliches in it. It's long. The monster can be whatever scares you the most, which is the biggest cop-out in horror fiction. And it wasn't even original then. It also has all the King tropes of, characters going back to their hometown where and evil from their childhood reemerges. It's really, to me, it's never been a story that I particularly liked. I actually thought Chapter 1 was a lot better than the miniseries, which I actually find painful. I think it's better than the source novel. But here's the thing, watching the trailer for Part 2, I was laughing, and the people watching it with me were laughing harder than I was. I didn't find any of it creepy at all. There was a trailer for a movie called Serenity that no one went to go see this year.
The McConaughey movie?
Yes, that does the same thing. When the woman behind the counter stops talking at a strange point and then diverts the conversation. The same beat there for the same reasons. And I honestly thought it was almost, I don't know, it was laughable. Also, the context is really, really odd. I mean, if Pennywise wants to kill Beverly, then why is he sitting down and have tea with her to begin with? I mean, it's just in the book, I understand more because it's about ratcheting up fear. But in the films, because they're going to have to play it as the amnesia aspect is going to have to be there. But the trailer made it look like it wasn't. Because otherwise, why would the photo of Pennywise even affect her? I don't know. There's a lot to me in the air that says this is not going to be nearly as good as the first half.
The other thing,
the first half surprised me with how much I liked it. I didn't think it was perfect, but I liked it way more than I thought it was going to.
The other thing is that they showed us a whole scene in the film, or most of it at least, and so you're going to be sitting through that scene going, oh, that's this scene. Yeah. And now I have to sit through all these developments that we just, because like almost 2 minutes of the 253 is this scene.
I don't know if that's truly the whole scene, though. I mean, think about how Avengers Endgame has like a scene that it seems like, oh, that's the whole scene, but then when you actually watch the movie, there's like 2 more minutes, and there's different beats and different things. Like, I don't think they're truly showing you that whole scene.
I hope not.
That scene is when Beverly goes back to the town, which is really early in the second half. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, yes, if you think that they're wiping, that she dies in that scene, you're out of your mind. But the truth is, it's just, it does not look. I mean, there's a lot of stuff like I hate the film projection scene in the first film. I thought that was laughable. I did not find that scary or intense. But there's other stuff that did work for me. I think this is going to have a lot more of that kind of a scare to it. Whereas it's like there's scares without consequence until the big finale. That's kind of what I saw in this trailer, and that's my least favorite type of horror. The type that is just the cock tease until the finale.
One of the things that I really like about the first movie, and one of the things that I think I'll enjoy about this movie, and why, I mean, Pennywise, the creature that assumes the Pennywise gimmick, that's his favorite gimmick. So it definitely has a flair for showmanship. So yeah, it's like a cat playing with the mouse before it finally kills it and eats it. You know what I mean? So I mean, I dig that. I dig the fact that he's going to toy with you and mess with your mind and really, really mess you up before he kills you. And really, I mean, and I may be not remembering it correctly, but Pennywise doesn't seem to necessarily want to kill the Adult Losers Club. He just wants him to leave. He just wants him to go away.
Well, again, the second half of the book has much more to do with the cosmic side, which I'm sure they're not doing of the story. So that's the main distraction.
You do see them there's a flash in the trailer where they're all in a circle holding hands, like they're going to do the chud thing. You know what I mean? Maybe they'll do the chud thing. I don't know. Maybe we'll see the turtle with the planet on its back or whatever.
That's actually why I'm excited for this movie. Is I kind of want to see how trippy it gets, because I almost wonder if they played it safe in the first movie to see what people's appetite was, and that maybe they're willing to be bolder in part 2. But I don't know. I
certainly think that that this time around they've given them the budget to be bolder, because the first, it didn't seem like that hugely budgeted a film, and of course, I mean, it made an enormous amount of money. So I mean, I'm sure they got a much bigger budget this time around.
Plus, there's that scene of Pennywise in the sky with the balloon, which looks straight out of Mary Poppins Returns. So,
yeah. I mean, look, I'm gonna buy a ticket. I probably won't be there opening weekend, but I will buy a ticket. And if it surprises me again, I would like nothing better. But I did not have the response that you had to the trailer. I did not think anything was creepy at all.
Can I ask a nerdy question? When are they going to release the director's cut of part 1? I've been hearing this for a while. They're going to wait before part 2 comes out, right before it.
I think that opening scene that they shot for the first movie with it encountering the settlers in Derry, I think they might use that this time around, because there's gonna be like a backstory for Pennywise, or at least how Pennywise assumed or at least how it assumed the Pennywise character, which I think would be cool. You know what I mean? There's a scene in the trailer where like you could see Bill Skarsgård like ripping the makeup off of his face, and so I mean, I don't know. And I believe Bill Skarsgård said in an interview that there's a lot more of the background in this one, and he does a lot more. There's a lot more that he does in this one than in the first film. So
and now people will give him the benefit of the doubt, because people went into the first movie going, come on, you're no Tim Curry. And now people have bought into his characterization of Pennywise. So I think people are going to go in, expecting more.
I really liked his interpretation of Pennywise, and I think he did a smart thing with it in that he seemingly tried to not copy Tim Curry and do the exact opposite that Tim Curry would do, and kind of, he made it his own. And
the drooling alone in the sewer.
Yeah, the drooling, the eye thing, and he was a lot more playful than like Tim Curry's Pennywise was.
Is he going to do Beep Beep Richie in this movie?
Sure. He'll probably do that. He'll probably do Kiss Me, Fat Boy. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe he'll say Kiss Me, Fat, and like spit all over the dude's face. And
Biz, I don't want to alarm you, but Pennywise is behind you right now.
I know. He watches over me. He watches. He's friendly. He's a friendly Pennywise.
You got another one.
Behind your TV with Piz for a couple hours and then maybe hurt him.
Well, he's a showman. He sees that a camera's on, so he wants to. He's a showman.
Did you guys ever
dancing clown?
Did you guys ever see? And I know SNL has been extremely hit and miss, especially in recent times, but they did a pretty funny SNL skit with Kate McKinnon as Pennywise, but she was Kellyanne Conway.
Yeah.
But they basically just redid like scenes from the movie, and I thought it was just very funny because she had a very funny voice, and it was like Kellyanne Conway.
Yeah.
The way she said it was pretty good. Check that out on YouTube if you hadn't seen it. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah. But
has everyone read the novel here?
It's been a long time. I don't even know if I actually made it all the way through it.
That's a common response.
I read the whole thing for sure, but this is at least 4 or 5 years ago, probably even longer, that I did. I got on a King kick because what happened was I was really interested in the Dark Tower series, but before I read Dark Tower, because I had kind of read that there are some interconnected tissue things, I kind of wanted to read some of the other books, and then I just found like I enjoyed a ton of them. So I think I started with the Dead Zone And then I read like Carrie and Cujo and It and Desperation, and I worked my way through a lot of his books. And I remember liking it. I didn't have the problems with it. Lauren seemed to, but
Is it longer than The Stand, the director's cut or the writer's cut, I should say?
longer than The Stand. It is long, but it's not that long.
It's a grand in pages, but the Stand is like 1,300 or something.
I just remember as a kid. I know now you get them all paperback, but I loved going to the bookstore when I was a kid and going to the King aisle. Again, I was too young to read this stuff, but just seeing something like it with the green fingers coming through the sewer in hardback, and it looked like the Bible. It was so huge. And you're like, oh my goodness, how I just saw an interview. I know we're going to get to Game of Thrones later, but I just saw an interview with George R. R. Martin and Stephen King, and he said, "Stephen, I just have one question for you. How the hell do you write 5 books a year?"
Yeah. That's been on YouTube for a while. I do think that's funny. He curses, if I remember. It's like, how the fuck do you write so fast?
Well, it makes sense because if you watch that, I think it's the Making of Creepshow that Michael Felsher did, where he says, when can you get the script to us, Steve? And he goes, I'll get it to you. I think it was like March 15th or something. He's like, how do you know that? He goes, well, I do 10 pages a day and then and then a rewrite. And so I can get it to you. And he delivered it on the day he said. So, I mean, that's how disciplined he is, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I heard that It Chapter 2 was supposed to be like 3 hours long.
It might be.
Has anybody heard anything like that?
If Suspiria can be 3 hours long, if Avengers look, because they bought themselves $300 million in like the first couple weeks, they're gonna get carte blanche to do whatever they want. Warner Brothers is gonna double down on this thing.
I mean, I don't know. A horror movie's different than
2.5.
Like an action movie. 3 hours would be long, I would think, for something like it.
2.5 with 10 minutes of credits. 240.
Yeah.
There you go.
I could buy that.
What did you guys out in the chat think of the It Chapter 2 teaser trailer? Let's see what's going on out in the chat.
When does it come out? October?
September the 6th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
We've got some love for the book out in the chat. We've got has anybody read Dr. Sleep? That's one that's kind of interesting to me because that's like the Shining sequel or whatever.
I bought it, and for whatever reason, I can't make myself read it.
Mm-hmm.
They just did a test screening. They just did a test screening of it, and I don't think anyone's reported yet on it. But they were recruiting people in LA to go see the first test screening of it, which I wish I could have gone because
Mike Flanagan, right?
Mike Flanagan, yep.
He's a solid choice.
That thing's been in post-production for a while now.
Well, sometimes some movies do take a year to edit. I mean, they just do if there's a lot of whatever they got going on. And he was busy with the Haunting, right? So maybe he could have shot it and then worked on the Haunting, got that out, and then come back to this. I mean, they do that a lot too.
Yeah. Aren't they doing a new Stand? Like, isn't there a Stand? Mm-hmm. Something coming out on was it like HBO or one of the streaming services?
I think CBS. It'll come out on the CBS streaming service.
Really?
That's all I heard. I heard that it was like scheduled. I haven't heard casting or who's making it or what the deal is.
I remember years ago they wanted Ben Affleck to direct a new version of it, and he was saying it's got to be 3 hours long minimum. Minimum, it has to be if you're going to make it one movie. Which I think after it. I think they need to make it minimum two.
Yeah, minimum. It is. So it's funny with regard to it versus The Stand. I know The Stand is often thought to be one of King's best novels, or a lot of people's favorite King novel. I rather like The Stand, except I've never gone back to read The Stand because I hated the end of The Stand. I won't spoil it here, but just. It annoyed the hell out. Like just all this rich character work and these things build up, and it just sort of the way that things end. The solution, you've heard the criticism of like Deus Ex Machina before, like literally, I mean, like I remembered reading, like I couldn't believe what I was reading when I got to it. That's actually why I think I like it better. It is one of the few King books where I can say that I actually rather like the end. I think that's a problem King has in a lot of his books is ending them. Like 1963, the one he did recently, which I actually think was one of his better recent books. You know, there's a lot of King fans that get into debates about old King versus new King. New King has problems, but you know, the book about the guy to go back in time and stop the Kennedy assassination. That was another book where like 95% of the book was really good and really interesting and engrossing. And then you get to the end and like just what he came up with, I did not like. And so The Stand is something where I sort of hope whoever gets a hold of that, whoever's making it, I really wish they would noodle with the end a little bit. They gotta be able to figure out something better.
Was the TV movie? Did it have the same ending as the novel?
Yeah,
I believe it did. Yeah, if I remember.
The hand of God on the missile.
Yeah, it's like literally like just God like shows up finally and like just kills all the bad guys. Like it's basically that.
That seems a little anticlimactic. Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like there was all this buildup. The two sides were gearing up. There's, you know, I think people were kidnapped. You know, there's lots of things in play. And then at the end, for just that to be what happens, it really just annoyed me. It's like, what the hell did I? Again, Lauren, you said what 1,300 pages. It's like, what the hell did I read? You know, 1,250 pages. Like that's where we are.
Eric, it sounds like you're talking about Twin Peaks season 3.
I love it.
I'm fat. Like I feel worse for you, man. Like I only invested 10, 12 years of my life in that. Like
what is a good King ending? Do we have what can we say is the definitive King ending?
Dead Zone.
Yeah, I was going to
Dead Zone. That's a great one. I think Carrie's pretty solid.
The great thing about the Dead Zone is that he made a story with a character named John Smith and made you care.
Yeah.
How generic can you get?
I'm surprised there's not been, you know, like another. I know they did like a Dead Zone TV series. I'm surprised they've not tried to do another Dead Zone film.
Yeah, I like that property. I actually liked the series. I liked the series was good for like 2 or 3 seasons, and then kind of went off a cliff. But again, the premise is really interesting. It's very cool, and that I think for a while that was my favorite King book until I actually did start getting into the Dark Tower books. So, actually, I've seen the Dark Tower movie. You asked me what I've seen recently. I think it was a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. I watched that abortion of a movie, The Dark Tower, that came out either last summer or the summer before. Yeah. I never wanted to pay money for it. I think it was just on Amazon Prime. So I watched it. So sorry, I didn't mean to step on anybody, but that is a new movie I have seen, and
is it better or worse than you thought?
It is worse. I heard a lot of really, really horrible reviews, and I think I kind of started thinking like, oh, it can't be as bad as they're saying it is. And no, it was and more. It was really true. And now I'm biased. Okay, let's just be clear about it. I am biased. I love those books. I'm like maybe the geeky Lord of the Rings fans who are like, well, they didn't do the scouring of the Shire, so the whole thing is a mess. Like maybe that's me with the Dark Tower, but I have a high respect for the material. I think it's very great stuff. It seems to me if it's done right, it could rival it could rival Lord of the Rings, it could rival Game of Thrones. Whoever made that movie, that guy just did not. He missed the point in so many ways.
But at least it wasn't one of the books, right? It was after the books, right?
That's maybe the one sort of redeeming qualities. It's like it doesn't like fuck up my memory of a particular book. They sort of made it, and it sort of spoils the books to a certain. I mean, I won't get into the details, but it's kind of a sequel to the books in a way. But even the movie doesn't make that. Only if you've read the books do you understand that it's a sequel to the books. But yeah.
I really love. I think the Drawing of the Three might be Stephen King's best actual writing.
Yeah,
and certainly is his best character work. That said, that was the last time I liked a Dark Tower book. I like the first for what it is, even though it's four disjointed novellas trying to masquerade as a novel. But I like it a lot. But Drawing of the Three was him at the absolute height of his power, freshly sober, firing on all cylinders. But I mean, when you get to talking trains and wolves with implants, you start to lose me. And by the time Steve King appears in his own novel and gets hit by a real life van, I'm out.
By the point we got,
I don't like
that. I mean, I agree with you that if you just sort of say that, it sounds outlandish. I felt like they earned it to a certain extent. If you build up to it and you open up the possibility and that can happen, if you just do stuff like that to be weird, I agree with you. I felt like he at least laid track for the idea of those things. And whether you buy it or not, that's up to you. And you clearly didn't. But I was okay with those things. I thought those were kind of interesting touches.
Well, I haven't read the books. I saw the movie, and the movie's not good. The movie feels like
it's rushed. It's way too rushed.
Incredibly rushed. It feels unfinished. It feels like only like half the movie ended up on the cutting room floor.
Yep.
How are they planning to do the Odetta? If they got the sequels out of it, how are they planning to do the Odetta storyline with the racial issues? I don't get that.
You know, it's funny because I actually had a debate with somebody. One of my friends was really against the Idris Elba casting strictly for that. Because in the novels, and we can be brief about this, but in the novels, you know, the gunslinger, Roland, is a white guy who looks an awful lot like Clint Eastwood, by the way. But you know, whatever, he's a white guy, and when he encounters this character of Odetta, is she from the 50s or is it the 70s? Can't remember what decade she's from, and I'm just gonna skip over why there's a time travel element, but she's from a different time period. Maybe even the 80s, but wherever, she's just this very like jive talking, like very sort of stereotypical jive talking, very racial kind of black lady character. There's a reason for it. There is, but it's a good question as to like how. The thing is I don't think they would have done it. I think they would have skirted around it. And even if they did do some part of it, the fact that Idris Elba was now the gunslinger robs that story of some of it because her character had a very visceral reaction to Roland, and that was some of the interplay.
Right.
I don't know.
Until her personalities come together and that defeats her racism, which is what it's about. It's about bigotry on real hurt.
Yeah.
But none of that, all that has to be reworked in something completely different. And it seems like a big price to pay. I don't know. That's what I thought. Idris Elba was fine in the role.
Yeah.
I just think that the very nature of casting him created issues. But I think he's good in it.
This is the reason I think why the movie frustrated me too is all the wasted talent. I love Idris Elba. He's awesome. Like I even like him in The Office. And Office is probably one of his most he's just a dude, but it's just, hey, it's Stringer Bell on The Office. Matthew McConaughey, we're in the McConaissance right now, right? On paper, that should be really good. I thought even the kid who played Jake was a pretty decent actor. I mean, I thought he brought a lot, again, there wasn't a lot in the role they wrote for him, but I mean, he did pretty well. But and again, just the source material is so good that I just watched that movie. I just could not believe at the utter failure at every turn. They made Matthew McConaughey is just like a mincing douchebag that whole movie.
But then
it's horrible.
A month later, it came out and everyone forgot about it.
Yeah. Which, by the way, The Dark Tower was kind of laying track for sort of the cross-universe potential of the Dark. Because if you remember, there was a carnival or something in Midworld, and there was like a picture of Pennywise, or there was some kind of a connection to it.
Yeah.
The movie sort of subtly put in there during one brief part. But I remember seeing that and just being like, thank God no one probably even remembers this movie because it's just better left.
Well, isn't there now going to be like a Hulu series? They're finally going to Amazon. Yeah.
And they've cast the dude to be Roland. I have no idea who he is. He's some European actor or maybe a Spanish actor. I'm not sure, but I haven't heard much about it. I'm not optimistic. I think that's the right format.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you can do movies based on what movie they made, but
that Ron Howard high concept was never going to work either. No. Let's do a movie, a TV series, a movie, a TV series, and then a movie. No one follows mass media like that unless you're on Ain't It Cool News.
I actually think nowadays you might be able to get away with something like that. I think Marvel has, and in fact, Marvel's going to test this when they do their Disney Plus not experiment, but the way they're going to do like Marvel TV shows on Disney Plus that will actually be part of the cinematic universe, unlike the TV shows, which are bullshit and not.
Those are individual spin-offs that you can see or not see. He was talking about continuing the story in this other section that you would have to see in order to see the second.
If I remember how they were talking about doing it, the TV show parts were going to be the flashback parts to, and Lauren, help me, I forget the name of the fourth book, but the one where you basically learn about like what is it?
Wizard and the Glass.
Wizard and Glass. There you go. Which, by the way, that might be my favorite of those books. I very much like that one.
And the Wolves of Kala would be the other one they could do as a side story. But
yes.
But now here's my problem with it, though. Marvel's one thing because it's so 4-quadrant mass appeal. The problem that the Dark Tower has is that if the person who watches, if they were to just adapt the books book by book, right? The first one is basically a weird Western with some monsters and some moral ambiguity, and it ends with a big speech about how the universe is an atom. The second book is really a weird Western taken into the world of like almost a gangster crime novel, and it's extremely strong. But so the audience now is probably, I think, could take both those books in a row. But when you get to the third, and the third film is going to open with a mechanical bear attacking them, I don't think you can change formats and have that change. I don't think the science fiction elements are going to do you any favors. And that's a problem. Then you get all the feeling stuff. I think it's just, I think there's a lot of changes to the story, and the core audience would eat it up. But I don't know if it's 4-quadrant big enough to support what it would cost to make.
I think there's a way to do, like, I think the fact that Game of Thrones has been successful, and I'm not bringing it up just as a nice segue into our next topic, but I think that they were able to turn that high concept into a series. And I see what you're saying, because it's jumping concepts. That's the problem. I still think that if Game of Thrones is possible, if something like Westworld is possible, the Dark Tower for sure is possible. The issue is you have to get the right people running it. And I'm not convinced the right people are in charge of it or know what to do with it, know how to cast it, know how to present it. That's the issue. You really do need the right talent to produce it.
Well, Game of Thrones, though, is building not just off of Martin's fandom. It was building off of Dungeons and Dragons. It was building off of
Lord of the Rings with Sean Bean.
Big time. So basically, all the Sword and Sandals / Sword and Dragon films that have ever come out, all the games, it does have a big appeal. Dark Tower, as it goes on, has a more winnowed appeal. Now, the hardcore fan base that is committed to it, it's not an issue. I just question whether there's enough people, because these are not cheap things to make. There's no way to make a cheap version of Dark Tower. You can make a cheap version of Cujo, not a problem. But
yeah.
But before we move on though, to Games of Thrones completely, can I just mention that because I can tie this in. The trailer for We've Always Lived in the Castle, the film adaptation of the Shirley Jackson novel, just hit. In this was one of those projects I always felt was unfilmable because it's told from an unreliable narrator, but not just unreliable in that the whole movie may or may not have happened or something like that, but scene by scene you kind of have to decode where Mary Cat's coming from. So obviously I thought this is something that Hollywood will never be able to do because there's too many layers. It's just too weird. It's wonderfully weird. And the trailer came out, and Alexandra Deodato's in it, and Crispin Glover's in it, and God damn it, it looks like they nailed it on every level, and that should never have been able to happen.
Wow.
Who's directing
I don't know.
Well, if it's got Crispin Glover in it, it's got a chance.
I have to take off.
Well, and it has Alexandra Daddario, and if her chest is in it, it's got a chance.
Wait, Alexandra Daddario is in this?
Yeah.
There is a ticket sold wherever the theater near me is got it ready.
While Lauren's looking that up, I'll mention some people in the chat were talking about the It Chapter 2 trailer. Josh O'Brien said he thought it looked pretty good. Steve said he enjoyed it. Barbecue Network says the audiobook for Dr. Sleep is very scary. Our old buddy Cole is gay. Drop by. He says, have a great show tonight. Wish you all the best. And he left us three red balloon emojis. So, let's see. Borderline 11 OG said he just saw the It teaser and he did not like it, but it might surprise him like the first one did.
I think we're in a world where teasers and trailers, feel how you feel about them. I wouldn't tell you to, not trust your gut, but those things are they're so, again, I don't want to get Cameron too fired up, but it's like there's so much manipulation of the trailers.
Oh, like
they're in the movie or not in the movie, but in the trailer, like different dialogue.
In Infinity War trailer where they show the Hulk charging on the battlefield.
Yeah.
And the Hulk's not in the movie except for the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Right. Yes.
What a lie.
Well, apparently, because they actually recently revealed that apparently was actual footage, and then they changed it and they moved that part to Endgame. Sorry, spoilers, but
yeah, but it's still like, but Marvel does that in almost every one of their trailers. Like for instance, the first Guardians of the Galaxy. No, but that first Guardians of the Galaxy trailer where they call themselves the Guardians of the Galaxy, and it goes, what a bunch of a-holes.
Yeah.
Well, at that point in the movie, they're not called the Guardians of the Galaxy, and yet that's not an off recorded line that's played overlaid. They actually that shot is in the movie. They just lopped off the first half, so that and it just stop lying to me. Just you know what I mean? Like I don't like it because like Coppola used to do that all the time. There's so many scenes in the Godfather 3 trailer that are not in the damn movie, and it drives me nuts. Don't do that to me. Because to me, when someone sued for Drive, because they said the trailer promoted it as one kind of movie and they got a different kind of movie and they sued, I was actually quite happy about that because it's like, yes, damn right. Because you are telling us your movie has these elements in it. We go to see those elements and we find out that not only did you not have them in there, you didn't even for instance, that epic shot in Rogue One with her on the platform and the TIE fighter rises up. That was put in there for the damn trailer, not the movie. They didn't even shoot that for the movie. And that to me is a lie. Sorry, but it's true.
No, I agree.
So We Have Always Lived in the Castle was directed by Stacey Passon. Looks like she's mostly done television work. She did episodes of The Punisher and American Gods.
Oh, nice.
Well, remember, the Russo brothers did Community.
Yeah.
And Arrested Development. The Punisher and American... Well, I've still not yet seen American Gods, but I've not heard anything but good things about it. At least the first season.
Something else.
It's good pedigree.
Something else with Crispin Glover in it. So, if Crispin Glover's in it, it's good.
Yeah.
But check out the trailer because it really, really does look, I think, pretty tremendous.
Is Alexandra Daddario in the trailer?
She is. She's not playing the role I expected her to play, and that's a good thing.
Get him, cuz.
Hey, I like that movie.
I like the beginning of it and the end of it.
I will say this. I would rather have a Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequel that feels like a mid-90s direct-to-video film than another attempt to do something glossy with that franchise. I really would.
Would that be the one with Jessica Biel then that felt glossy? Is that the one you're referencing?
It is.
Prettiest horror movie ever made?
Okay.
Yeah. But I want to see them try things with that series, and they actually tried something. So that's cool.
I didn't care for that last one they put out very much, but
Yeah, I don't think anybody did.
Leatherface.
Leatherface. Yeah.
Whatever, man. I've lost count of this. Was that like the third film called Leatherface?
That was the prequel, because we gotta have a Texas Chainsaw Massacre prequel.
And
Which prequel?
Does Leatherface have as many universes now as Halloween, or still not as many?
Not
I'm
quite.
pretty sure they keep rebooting or doing like different tangents or something.
Well, I mean, we could say the first two took place in their own universe. Part 3 took place in its own separate universe. Part 4 took place in another galaxy.
Okay.
The remake and the prequel to the remake are in their own universe, and then Leatherface is in its own universe. So yeah, we're getting close.
Yes, that's at least as many, I think.
And Chainsaw 3D was in its own universe too. Although it tried to be a direct sequel to the original, but meh.
Well, and I kid, but the talk about lying in a trailer, that teaser for Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, I thought the whole thing was going to be a King Arthur movie. Damn it.
Lauren, what do you think about part 4? Yeah. Only because you tend to have different.
No, I mean,
if you have eclectic opinions, I would like to know myself.
It's a horrible film. It is a horrible film, but and I've only seen it once.
See, I love it. That's why I was just curious how you felt about it.
I actually only like the parts that most fans really got pissed off about. The Illuminati, maybe space alien stuff. I love biplane rather than truck. I love the stuff that's just so wacky and crazy and stupid that I just can't believe I'm watching it. When it tries to be a regular Texas Chainsaw Massacre film, I hate it because it's flat and cheap and it doesn't affect me at all. And a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, if nothing else, should at least make you uncomfortable or just kind of have you gobsmacked.
Yeah,
like the second film. The second film is not a good film either, if we're really looking at it from structure or character or anything. But it's so watchable. I don't know. It's a series that doesn't really have a lot of great films in it. But it's one of the best films ever made, so who cares?
Yeah.
It's not a series that I personally attach myself to very much. Like, I've seen the first one, and I think I've seen parts of like all the sequels, but I've never really sat down and sought those, like, to dig into them. It never seemed to, the concept never seemed to appeal to me.
I think that's because you like sympathetic protagonists, and all the protagonists in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre are feisty and mean, and they're not like sympathetic.
I don't know if that's true.
Like Halloween's your favorite.
I do like that, but
you have Lori and Jamie and her sister, and you can go through Halloween and there's just sympathetic protagonists through that entire series.
Oh no, this is gonna start the Rachel debate.
Well,
I was about to mention Rachel just to see what you would do.
I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre is an acquired taste. And this doesn't downgrade Halloween and Friday the 13th, but those are more accessible horror movies. Yes. Chainsaw Massacre is not an accessible horror movie, but because of the title, because of the reputation, people think it is what it isn't really, which is just a blood-soaked, gore fest, and you know what I mean. And that's really not what the movie is, but still, it's an acquired taste. Even the sequels are very much an acquired taste. So they're
regional too.
Yeah, they're not they're not accessible like a Friday the 13th or a Halloween or Child's Play, Nightmare on Elm Street, etc., etc. You know what I mean? I would put kind of Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the same, and this is something else that we can talk about real briefly, or not briefly if you want to. It was announced, I think, just the other day that David Goyer is writing how did they put it? Some sort of reimagining of Hellraiser. And
Cameron's got to be excited.
And I look at the Hellraiser movies too, and I just go, the reason why there was not a Hellraiser remake during the time where everything was being remade is because they wanted to make an accessible Hellraiser movie. And Hellraiser is fundamentally, at its roots, not an accessible
They tried that with the third film to make it into a straight slasher series.
Yeah, exactly.
It didn't
Isn't
work.
that the one with Dax from Deep Space Nine?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
The only thing I'll say in Goyer's defense, and people have been ragging on him pretty hard, is he is the writer of Blade and Blade 2.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, he wrote The Dark Knight, a draft of The Dark Knight. The guy is capable of great work. He's also capable of phoning in a paycheck to producers. So it depends what the producers want. If they let him write something decent, I think that they're going to end up with something decent. Won't be what Clive write, but guess what? We're not getting Clive back.
But he didn't write The Dark Knight. All these people keep saying he wrote The Dark Knight. He came up with a story with Christopher Nolan, and Nolan took that, and him and his brother wrote it. So, I mean, I can't give him credit. He wrote Man of Steel, which is not very good.
Well, and I made sure that I made this very loud and clear on social media when I posted about it. This is the guy who made Jason afraid of the water in Freddy vs. Jason. That was his idea. That was his contribution to the Freddy vs. Yes, he came in and did a rewrite on Freddy vs. Jason, and one of his additions was to make Jason afraid of water.
If I was doing the Hellraiser movie, I would want to adapt, at least maybe just in concept only, the Scarlet Gospels, which is, if you don't know, it's Clive Barker's finale of mixing was it Harry from Lord of Illusions in with the Hellraiser. So I kind of like just that concept. I haven't actually read the book, but I think that would be a great way if you were going to try to make it hardcore fans, but also accessible to something, and made a film noir meets horror. You could maybe perhaps do that.
I think it's too ambitious, and it also kind of contradicts the movies that exist, because Satan is a literal character in Scarlet Gospels.
Yeah,
that's going to be hard to pull off after the whole Leviathan Lord of Hell thing. It could be done, but I don't think it's quite as strong as its reputation sometimes had.
I think Satan was my favorite character in the Scarlet Gospels. Actually, he was my favorite character in the whole in that book. He's just like you know, he was like, I killed myself and you brought me back. God, what are you? You know, it's like I just wanted to disappear. And then of course, and I love his ending in the book too, where he's just like, you know, he's on Earth and he's, you know, I won't spoil it, but anyway.
Because I have spoken about this book.
Yeah. Lauren and I have talked about the book off the air, and there's a very good reason why it will never be adapted to the screen.
Yeah.
But you know, I think if they did adapt it, it could be somewhat accessible because, like I said, it crosses the, you know, Hellraiser and Lord of Illusions, and there's, you know, but you know, I don't know how you can make. I don't know.
I think the first half of Hellraiser they can remake just fine. I don't think there's anything there about Julia, and I think that's all that's accessible. The problem is the last half of the movie goes to territory that I don't think people are going to be comfortable with.
Right.
But to be honest with you, I like Hellbound more than I like Hellraiser anyway. I like the scope of it. I like the uneasiness of it. I think it's just a better film. So if they would do that, if they would go big with it, I'd be fine.
I don't know. I think they want, you know, a box office hit on their hands, and I don't know if, you know,
not everything's adaptable.
Yeah,
I'm with you. I'm not sure that every franchise can be, you know, updated or rebooted or whatever. That seems like a tough one to me.
Well, and I don't think Hellraiser carries the same street cred as a Halloween or,
right,
you know what I mean, a Friday the 13th. So I mean, there will be, you know, it'll be something that horror fans like us go, oh, well, you know, new Hellraiser movie. But most just casual horror fans it's just going to totally fly under the radar. And unless they make it just another slasher movie, they try to make, you know, go into the taboos and, you know what I mean? It's pain and pleasure and blah, 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 blah. It's just going to turn a lot of people off. And it'll probably not even play in certain areas, to be honest.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
I don't know. Orcs joined us. Orc, how's it going, buddy?
Pretty good. You know, sometimes you OD on McGriddles, shit happens. Better late than never, I guess. As much as the expression sucks, but you know.
Well, you know, I've
Fuck
been
it,
in
dude.
those, I've been in one of those McGriddle fogs. You know what I mean? It's it's a great high, but it's an awful come down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're loving it until you're dead and you're in a coma. So you know.
Mm-hmm.
Ba-da-da-da-da.
Da-da-da-da-da. I'm in a coma.
Da-da-da-da-da. My fries are cold and I'm in a coma.
It's like, yeah, it's like da-da-da-da-da. I need insulin. So it's just, you know, it's good. It's good. They're good. They're good when they're, you know, they're
They
good.
need to have like instead of just the Ronald McDonald House to like donate and put like change in like $1 bills in, they need to have like like you should be able to invest in your own like health bills. Like you know, like would you like to donate to yourself when you're having a cardiac arrest?
Yeah.
$1.
Do you want your change to go towards your healthcare program? Absolutely. You know what I mean? So
Ba-da-da-da-da, you're fucking dead.
Jeez, oh Pete. Well, let's see what else is going on. Before we dive into Game of Thrones, let's talk about has anybody seen the extremely wicked Ted Bundy movie with Zac Efron in it? It's on Netflix right now.
No, not yet.
I've heard pretty good things about it. It's in my list, but I've just not had a chance to check it out yet.
I really want to see My Friend Dahmer, and then the Ted Bundy movie that has like 10 letters or 10 words in it. That's the title. Extremely Shocking Evil, Ben and Jerry's.
That's
dumpster.
it. That's the new one. Yeah.
Hey.
The My Friend Dahmer's pretty good, but I mean it's not like a serial killer movie. It's all about, you know, I really liked it. I thought it was a really good movie, but I mean it's not going to be like a serial killer kind of movie. The Dahmer movie with Jeremy Renner in it is pretty good, so you should look into that one. So Lauren, have you seen the new Ted Bundy movie that's on Netflix?
Sorry, microphone wouldn't come off. No, I haven't. I'm not really that huge. It's funny. One of my favorite films is Zodiac. However, I'm not really a big serial killer film guy.
Mm-hmm.
I went through a period where I read a lot of nonfiction books about serial killers, but the films usually I just find annoying. I'm more excited about the second season of Mindhunter whenever that starts.
Yes. I don't know whether you were reacting to what the viewers don't see. We're chatting to each other a little bit. Like that Mindhunter show from Netflix. The first season was incredible, and I think they've already filmed season 2. Like I don't know why it's not coming back, or maybe they're not done filming it, but they need to bring that back immediately.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Lauren, since you mentioned the Zodiac, and I like Zodiac too, but there's a lot of. Have you read what's the Hodel guy's book? Have you read that book?
David Grayson's book?
No, it's he was a detective for the Los Angeles Police Department, and he thinks that his father was Steve Hodel.
No, I haven't. My take on all these things, whether you're talking Jack the Ripper, or the Zodiac, or any of the unsolved killings, is if the cops didn't get a beat on anyone, it was just anyone. You know what I'm saying? I think that when we start pointing fingers at people and start saying, well, this guy could have been it. Yeah, well, you can find evidence anywhere, but the people actually who were being paid to investigate it couldn't figure it out in the time. We're not getting it now. You know, the Green River murderer was caught based on coincidence. The Son of Sam was caught because he couldn't park a car without getting a ticket. We tend to catch serial killers not by catching serial killers. We tend to catch people for stupid other things and realize they're serial killers.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys like the Zodiac who don't make the stupid mistakes in the commission of their crimes tend to get away with it. That's the scary thing about it. The concept of a serial killer is that there is no guarantee of justice because it's not a type of crime that you can really get in front of. There's not a motive that you can immediately ascribe to it and whittle down who it is. And that's the scary thing.
That's a
is why I
great
like
point, Lauren. That's a great point.
Why I like the movie Zodiac so much, because it's a film about not being able to prove anything. That film, fingers someone who almost certainly didn't do it, by the way, but it leaves that ambiguity in there as, okay, we know. What are you going to do about it? Because you can't prove it. There would be no case. I think that's far more interesting than a film like, the Ed Gein films that have come out, which is, to me, just read the judge's book. You don't need a film.
I have to say, going off what Lauren is saying, they get caught in such weird ways, like, what's his name? Dahmer, he had the gay dude escape his apartment, and then, they didn't even catch him because they were like, oh, this is awkward, just somewhere in Milwaukee. But, it's funny how they do get caught, though. Like John Wayne Gacy, the story with him, and he gets a Happy Meal, and then look what he did. He just couldn't resist McDonald's. I can't blame him,
That was his Achilles heel. McDonald's.
Yeah, and then he's got like an Egyptian temple of like people in his basement. Well, okay, never mind. This is too overboard. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Let me see what's going on out in the chat. Movie Man 95 says he saw the new Ted Bundy movie and enjoyed it. Our buddy Mr. McNuggets, Andrew's in the chat tonight. How you doing, Andrew? Hope you're doing well. Well, let's move on and let's start talking about Game of Thrones. I know Cameron's not present, but I'm sure he'd be interjecting with Game of Thrones. And part of the title of tonight's show is, can Game of Thrones be saved? Now, that of course implies that it needs saved, which I think is is somewhat debatable, I guess, considering that, this is a series that had 7 incredible seasons. Now, and I think we can, there's even debate over when the creators of the show ran out of source material from the book, that there was a dip in quality. Now, there may have been a bit of a dip in quality, at least from my perspective. I didn't notice too big a dip. Some people say there was a huge dip. That's just debatable. But with just 2, after 7 great seasons, all that it's taken is really 2 episodes in the last season of the show to, I don't want to say ruin the series, but certainly cast an enormous shadow over it. To the point where I don't even remember episode 1 of season 8. I don't remember a thing about that episode. So let me sort of set the table for people who may not be familiar with the show. And this is one of the things that really upset me about Game of Thrones. Season 8, episode 3. We've had all this build-up, 7 seasons of build-up toward this one epic battle between the living and the dead. Jon Snow has said it, I don't know how many times during the series, that the only battle that matters is the battle between the living and the dead. We have all these prophecies coming into play. We're expecting an immense battle. And episode 2 of season 3, episode 2 of season 8 was so good, so freaking good, that all of these character arcs kind of seemed to come full circle, and it was setting up this epic battle, and it was such a great episode that it made me dread the next episode, because I knew that so many of these characters were going to die, and this was going to be such an epic battle. And there were a lot of things wrong with that episode, but the thing that really just really took the legs out from under me with that episode was all of that buildup for this battle, all of the prophecies, all of the everything just was kind of thrown out the window, and it was the only battle that mattered, but then it didn't matter. And that to me, I think that's the point where people are going to say this series jumped the shark, or they jumped the Night King, or whatever you want to call it. I was extremely disappointed with that episode, to the point where I think for me to be able to look back upon the entire series, the only way I could look back upon the series with any appreciation is to just pretend that there were no White Walkers in the series, and that episode 3 of season 8 just did not happen. That's the only way that I can come to terms with their handling of the Long Night and the battle with the Night King. That's such a huge disappointment for me. And then the episode 4, it seems like what they're setting up to close out the series is just going to be really bad. And I don't know. I mean, you guys, Eric, Stingray, I know you guys are watchers of Game of Thrones. You know, help me out here. What are your guys' thoughts on just season 8 of Game of Thrones? Go ahead, Eric.
Well, I guess I don't have the sky is falling perspective on it that it kind of sounds like you do. Like I haven't seen anything. For example, like the first 3 episodes of season 8, I was pretty happy with. You know, thought the first episode was pretty good. Like you say, the second episode of the season, really solid, really good character stuff, a lot of good payoff to some long-term sort of, you know, character plots, and just generally the show was kind of fun. Like you were sort of nervous because you sort of knew good times were coming to an end, but you know, oddly enough, that episode was kind of fun. I mean, I don't know. I rather liked the major battle episode. I think there were some people who were disappointed in. I mean, again, I'd like to get into that with you a little bit, as like some of the things that you specifically didn't like about it. But I don't know. I appreciated that they made that battle different than the other battles we've seen on the show, because there was even a guy, I forget who he was, if it was the director, if it was somebody else, but like, you know, if you watch it on HBO Go, you can kind of watch after the episode stuff. And the guy was saying, like, you know, when you do episodes about like a battle, you know, on paper, it's like, oh yeah, cool, a battle. But like to a viewer, you can only watch that for so long before you're like, okay, well now I'm bored. Like I'm just seeing a bunch of random, you know, nobody's hitting each other with swords. Like what, you know, show me something interesting. And I just thought, you know, both in the way that the Army of the Dead attacked and fought, and the way the characters on the show sort of rallied to defend themselves, I was satisfied with that. My sort of one disappointment with that episode, and you kind of alluded to it, was, and again, I'm not bloodthirsty, but I was sort of shocked that more people didn't die. Mm-hmm. Again, it's that thing where it's like, I didn't want Brienne to die. I didn't want Jaime to die, but I mean, like, there are parts of the episode where I'm just struggling to figure out like how they're not dead. Mm-hmm. They were surrounded on all sides by like living skeletons with swords and knives, and it's unclear to me how they survived. And the show, if you can give any sort of commendation to the show about something, it's a certain realism where nobody is safe. Mm-hmm. You know, people that you hold dear to your heart, characters you love, you know, they can die at any moment, or seemingly. Now that we're in the end game of the show, apparently that's not true. And that took me out of the action a little bit. Mm-hmm. But again, I know some people complained about the lighting; it was too dark. Yeah. I mean, once I turned my lamp off in my living room and I just had a dark room, like I was okay with it. But generally, I liked that episode a lot, even its conclusion.
Well, I think the way that it's kind of like in Endgame. If you had all this build up to Endgame, and you have mm-hmm. all of the Avengers together, and they're finally teaming up to take on Thanos, and then out of nowhere, Captain Marvel walks up to Thanos, sneezes, and he falls over dead. That was episode 3. That was episode 3 of season 8.
Arya didn't sneeze. I don't like that analogy. I don't agree with that.
That was that to me was the payoff. That was like the payoff to all of this build up, all of this lore, all of these prophecies that now apparently the series is just completely, they're like, Azora who? The prince that was what? All that's gone. If you had any investment in that, forget about it. It's gone.
Well, I'm not. So my only thought on that is if they never address it again, and John was just resurrected for no reason or seemingly no reason, or it's never touched on, then I'll be with you. We still do have 2 episodes left, and I have to. And I don't want to decide that prophecy. We all assume. Remember, they keep talking about subverting expectations. We keep assuming that prophecy meant the Night King, which made a lot of sense. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it was about Danny or something. I don't know.
That's where I'm going. That's where I think episode 4. I think that's what episode 4 is setting up with the last 2 episodes. But to the back to episode 3 and the battle, when you really think about that, I don't like to bring common sense into my movies, particularly. A horror movie never bring common sense into a horror movie.
Yes.
I just, I don't know, when I look back over that episode, yes, it was very dark, and that certainly it was very dark, but it was also edited so it was so jarring, the editing, that you couldn't tell who was fighting and who was dying, and you couldn't really tell what was going on. It's an epic battle, and it's not just that it was super dark, but just the way it was edited, you couldn't tell. It was like, oh, somebody just died. Was that Brienne? Oh, somebody else just died. Who was that? What happened there? It was just so choppy that you couldn't tell what was going on. And I think why would you send the Dothraki charging into darkness? They had no idea who they were fighting. They were just charging into darkness. That was you basically wiped out the Dothraki, having them charge into a battle that they just charged into darkness. I don't know, that to me just is ridiculous. I'm not sure where that's coming from. That's really weird. I'm not sure where that's coming from. But the episode just kind of doesn't make sense to me. I think that, and I don't want to blame it entirely on the writers or the showrunners. I really think a lot of that episode shortcomings has to do with HBO probably cutting the budget dramatically.
It's a means to an end. You need to realize that they got to wrap this thing up, and it's got to be done in a certain period of time with a certain budget. And
right, but
that was an epic episode, and I have a lot of the same complaints as you. But I'm not going to give up on the show that I've been invested for 80 episodes. Because just because you didn't like the ending of it. Are we doing spoilers on here?
Sure. Why not?
I'm not going to. I just didn't know if I needed to avoid anything. But I agree with a lot of things that you said, and I agree it was an abrupt ending, but it's got to move forward back to what Game of Thrones is about, and that's who's going to sit on the throne.
Well, devil's advocate, Jay, because I'm not sure I'm taking this position. I was satisfied with what they did, but I think what Piz is saying is the show made us believe for a long time that the stuff you're saying was really the heart of Game of Thrones, like the political maneuvering and truly the quest for the throne. That the show was sort of telling us the whole time that's not really the story and that's not really the threat. There's this ancient evil north of the wall that's coming to destroy mankind, and no one's paying attention to it because they're too short-sighted and they're squabbling over a iron chair. I agree. Like, again, I still hope there is more coming on that. I don't know that there is, and so I may ultimately share in some of the disappointment. I'm not willing to write it off though before the end.
Exactly. Yeah.
Until I get to the end and basically, you know, the Night King just died and there was really no more about it, like, then I'll be mad. But
I'm not so sure that they're finished with the White Walkers at this point.
I don't. I mean, I think they're racing as quickly as they can to get this thing over with. Yeah, they've got 2 90-minute episodes left, but they have done so much, and you know, the series has never been about a means to an end, because the series has been so immense, so many characters, so many story arcs, so much, just so much going on.
And they've got to wrap it all up and put it in a little box and make everyone happy while doing it.
But why not do, instead of 6 episodes, do another full season?
I agree.
mean, that to me is HBO stepping in, going, you know, guys, you know, we got a clock here, we got a budget here.
But hold on a second. I don't think. Well, again, I want to be accurate. If we're going to criticize someone, let us criticize the showrunners, because if I'm not I think HBO, screw full season. Like, sure, yeah, they'll do a full season. I think HBO wanted another season too.
Why not?
I think the
another season.
The showrunners, for some reason, and this is what I don't understand, and the interviewers who interview them never ask good questions. It's just sort of like, oh, Amanda Pete's your wife. How is that like? It's like, no, ask them a question like, hey, season 7, you only did, what was it, 7 episodes or 8 episodes? But it was shorter. And then here in the final season, you're only doing 6. So, again, Piz, I think you and I differ in that, like, I don't think I've been as critical. When we get to episode 4, I do have some logic criticisms, but let's take this in stride here. I have been critical, especially now, over the breathless pace at which we're moving when I don't think we needed to. And like that's the part that's kind of burning me up, is the showrunners made the decision, well, these are the episodes we need. Now, again, trying to be devil's advocate, like, I don't know if they said, okay, these are the things that we need to have happen before the end of the show. And HBO is like, well, you've got 50 million. That's your number. And they said, okay, if 50 million is our number, we can only do 6 episodes. Like, I don't know. But the showrunners have been the ones saying that they're the ones who decided on the episode count. There's another side to that story, perhaps. No one's asking them about it. And I would love someone to do that.
Well, keep in mind, too, that these 2 guys are also set up with Disney to do a Star Wars trilogy. So they may be trying to get as quickly as possible over there.
Right.
Aren't there like 3 spinoffs planned, though? Like,
they won't have any say in the spinoff. Those guys are done.
Yeah.
Why?
And the Disney thing, I think, happened. I'm sorry, Jay. Just one more. The Disney. I just want to make, like, the Disney thing. I think that happened in like the last year, right? They've been working on this final season, so the end of it, like a year before that. I mean, it's entirely fair. Maybe they were talking to Disney the whole time. Maybe they are running out the clock. I mean, we don't know. I don't think. I don't think they're trying to rush to finish this to go do Star Wars. That's my position.
The Starbucks cup is emblematic of what's going on. They just don't care anymore. They have senioritis. How does that gaffe go through that many preview screenings of executives, of director cut? It's ridiculous. I made a comment in our group chat the other day. I want to elaborate on it because people in the chat aren't watching it. My biggest disappointment of what's happening right now, again, this could change with 2 episodes in. I'm just saying at this moment, my disappointment is, and I've been a big fan of this show, is, I know this sounds ridiculous because it's the last season. It feels like they're doing a conclusion season as opposed to a season of Game of Thrones that just inevitably becomes the ending. And by that, I mean, like, they're wrapping things up in a way that, like, it seems like the characters themselves know we're wrapping this up. And they still be heading forward, not knowing what's going to happen in their fate. And we know the episodes are coming to a close. They don't know. And it feels like the characters are all sitting around talking to each other. And some great character moments, don't get me wrong. But it feels like They're sitting around because they know this is the last time they're going to hang out together. They're going to see each other. And this whole thing with like turning Daenerys, if she does go all Mad Queen on us, look, it's a great concept if you had maybe another season and a half to explore it. But they're all of a sudden they're throwing in this twist, which we may have seen coming in a way, but at the same time they're doing it in a way where there's been, I would argue, very, very little groundwork, as opposed to the people who said, well, Arya's Mary Sue. Look, there's been lots of groundwork as to why she was the one to take out the Night King.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think the execution of her taking out the Night King was a little strange? Yes. Not necessarily the switch of the hand, but just her flying out of nowhere like the beginning of Gangs of New York or something. Right? But I think the whole if they do the whole thing with like, I mean, I know we're talking about episode 4, but like, how does Dany with the dragons in the sky don't see the ship armada right there? And like Eric says in the chat, how does this guy who's never fired this instrument before nail like the dragon 3 times with it?
He's a dead shot. That's for sure.
He's a mustache twirler.
Some of the deep book geeks on Reddit were, and again, I shouldn't make fun of them like that. Some of the people who've read the books and kind of remember some stuff better than I do were kind of talking about that concept a little bit, Cameron, and they were, and beyond just some of the logic of it, because again, episode 4 story-wise, I don't think bothered me as much, but there are certain logic things. And it seems silly, right? Like you were kind of saying, Piz, like, don't bring logic to a horror movie. I mean, I get that in a horror movie, and I get that to a certain extent in this too, but it's sort of like you've built a world, you've articulated the rules of the world. Now you can't just start like breaking like basic rules of like physics and reality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it just seems, again, it's like there's like one guy on a ship from like a mile away using experimental bow and arrow technology who's able to shoot a moving target like 1,000 feet in the air. Is it possible? I suppose it's possible. Is it probable? No.
Well, no, not just he hits it 3 times without missing one shot. 3 times.
Right. It's one of those things that drives me nuts that when other shows do it. The Walking Dead did this when they introduced Negan. It's like we need something to happen in the plot to like move us ahead. So it's like plot killed the dragon, not like anything that a character earned or skilled enough. So sorry, the thing I was going to say is that the folks on Reddit who are deep into the books were talking about how, at least in George R.R. Martin's sort of book universe, because again, these are 2 different things. I mean, I think we recognize that now. Dragons are near impossible to kill. They have like tough scales, arrows can't penetrate their hides. And there was like a story like written in the old days about like some knight down in Dorne who like fired an arrow that just happened. It just happened to hit a dragon in the eye and killed it, and it like crashed into the castle. But then like later the Targaryens showed up with like 4 dragons and like burned the whole place to the ground, arrows bouncing off them. It didn't matter. And it's like, it seems like Dany's dragons, just anything and everything, like they're just basically birds up there that happen to shoot fire. Like anything can hit them, anything can kill them. And it sort of robs them of some of their power.
Yeah. Like 2 miles away.
Yeah.
With some like archaic technology,
well, what about season 1 where it took them half a season to get to King's Landing? Now we can get there in 2 minutes.
Well, again, that's to add on to something that Eric said earlier. I think the amount of story that we got in episode 3, the amount of the amount of story that we got in episodes 3 and 4, would have taken an entire season at least for, if this was season 2, season 3, it would have taken an entire season to get all that in. And we got it in 2 episodes. And those episodes to me did not even feel like they were an hour and a half each. And I was going to say something else. Well,
I know exactly what you're going to say. Hey, Jay, real talk.
Real talk.
Hey, did you guys know that you could support the show and get an awesome shirt like this Halloween, the night he came home? I mean, this is a unique shirt. You've never seen this art anywhere. At TeePublic and go to Pizzel's store. It's in his description.
Don't
So,
forget to click that bell.
click the bell, turn on notifications all the time because they ask you if you only want some of the videos, not all of them. That's why I'm sub to fucking PewDiePie. All right. Why would I only want half of his videos? Anyways, yeah. Look how baller the shirt is. Look at that. Look at the detail, and every purchase goes to a starving Kenyan kid and Pizzel, and it funds the show as well. So it's 50-50.
That's true.
Everybody wins. And then, everyone's happy because that means more videos from Pizzo, and then we all get to eat McGriddles because Pizzo splits paychecks. He sends me like $5, like every 3 months. So kind of a hashtag sellout move on my part, but right, guys. Anyways, how do you guys like the Game of Thrones Oreos? Because those look delicious.
Those were good. Actually, it's funny because I posted a picture of the Night King Oreo on Instagram, and the Oreo company DM'd me on Instagram and was like, "Hey, we want to send you a package because you pledged your fealty to the Night King." And I was like, "Sure, send me whatever you want."
I'm a big fan, but I could not watch that video, and I'm sorry I have not. So I've disgraced the TSF Nation because I didn't want to run to Walmart and then buy like 10 bags of Oreos. So I'm sorry.
Well, they sent me this silver goblet with the Night King on it there, and on the back in the Game of Thrones font it says Oreo. So thank you, Oreo. How cool is
Wait,
that?
are you trying? Did they say cosplay Little John in your next video? Can I get a yeah? Yeah.
Need to put some Cavassier in there. But yeah,
I was just gonna say I'm getting worried that they may not stick the end game. I really hope they do, but I also think even if they give us a good ending, I'm gonna feel like we just got the Cliff Notes version to get there.
Yeah. Well, and and I know I sound like I really don't like Game of Thrones anymore because of these just 2 episodes. But I love this series. I don't watch episodic television at all. So for a show to for me to care this much about, a show, it really, I mean, it says something for me to get as invested in a show as I was or am in Game of Thrones. So to see what happened with episode 3 and to see what happened with episode 4 and where episode 4 is kind of telling us that the rest of the season is going to go and the finale is going to go. I don't know. I'm really concerned that, these 6, kind of like with Lost, everybody loved Lost until right up to the end. And now when people think of Lost, they go, oh yeah. It's tainted the whole thing. It's tainted the legacy.
I mean, I didn't like the end of Breaking Bad, but I didn't get on every social media platform that I have and talk about how much I hated the end of Breaking Bad. But it seems like people are jumping shit really early, and I think that's just the nature of fandom these days. And it's really kind of disgusting.
I also think they've gotten burned by so many shows that they've now learned to jump ship.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've got to have a little bit of faith in this crew because, I mean, this is like one of the best shows ever. I mean, in my opinion. I mean, seriously. But I mean, if it shits the bed, it shits the bed. I'll be the first one to say it.
I mean, I'm hoping that it doesn't. I hate to see, I hate to see this close to the end that it just feels like, I don't know, they just want it over and they don't care about character arcs and they don't care about the past 7 seasons just kind of don't matter. We just want out of here. You know what I mean? I don't know.
So what is this Starbucks cup thing? I haven't actually seen it. It was in the episode.
In episode 4, there is a Starbucks cup on the table near Danny. And how that, like Cameron said, how that slipped through, because they filmed that scene probably 10 times. It was edited. It was screened. I mean, there had to be a million different eyes on that thing before it went to television.
Before a TV show can air, 6 times it has to screen. For the director's cut, the editors, then you have the producers watching it, then you have to screen it for the network executives, then you have the network president. How is it not seen? And you know what? I read online and I I hate talking about conspiracy theories, but for them to make that kind of mistake, I will agree that I don't think it was a mistake. I think it was purposely done because it got Starbucks $2 billion of free publicity, and now they've gone back and digitally erased it.
Yeah.
So it will never exist on future airings or Blu-ray, whatever like that. So they got their cake and ate it too.
Well, I mean, that could be a microcosm of just how sort of this season, that all those eyes were on this episode before it went to air, and nobody noticed the Starbucks cup on the table. You know what I mean?
I mean,
And it's
I
not
watched
in the
it.
corner. It's not in the corner, Jay. It's front, dead and center in front of her.
Yeah, I'm looking at the pictures now, and I mean, I watched this episode twice, and I didn't see it. So I mean,
well,
It means you were invested in the show.
just a couple of more things about. Well, let's just go. Episode 3 was a colossal disappointment for me personally. Episode 4, they crammed so much character-y stuff into that one episode that, again, back in the day, that would have been a season. That's an entire season's worth of character development in that one episode. And I kind of feel like they crapped on a lot of the characters. They crapped on Jamie. His whole arc, his whole redemption arc for 7 seasons has been destroyed. He's right back to where he was episode 1, season 1. Or it seems that that's where he's at now, which I hate that. And where it seems the big bad is not going to be Cersei. The big bad is no longer Cersei. My prediction is the big bad going forward now is Dany.
why would they do that?
Because but see, they've had so little time to establish this, though. They're establishing it with one episode. She's going to end up like her father, the Mad King. Everybody who stands in her path, whether they're innocent or not, they're going to get burned. If they have a claim to the throne, they're going to get burned. Tyrion and Varys are probably going to get burned for treason. If she will have to die, someone will have to kill her, and it's going to be Jon Snow. Jon Snow will have to kill her because she is going to go insane, just like her old man, because all she's ever wanted was the throne, and she will, whatever the cost is, she will get that throne. And because Jon Snow is who Jon Snow is, he will have to kill her.
And let's go for a step further. After he kills her, he rejects the throne and goes and hangs out with the wildlings up north.
Well, they totally established that too. When he hugged the big guy with the red hair, and he was like, the North is in you. You'll always have a place in the North. Okay.
They tipped their hand.
Yeah. So there's no way Jon's going to sit on the throne. There's no way Dany's going to sit on the throne. So who's going to sit on the throne? If Tyrion's not killed for treason, because again, will they kill Tyrion? You would say no, but they're subverting expectations. So
could it be Sansa and Tyrion since they're married?
Well, I would like to see Tyrion sit on the throne, but that seems almost too obvious. If he doesn't die, it seems too obvious that he'll be on the throne. So who's left to sit on the throne?
Have you seen those memes of Ghost, the dog, the wolf, like riding on top of the dragon, saying this is what the fans want to see?
I would love to see that.
That would be
fun. But they came out, Jay. They came out and said the reason why Jon did not hug the dire wolf is because they didn't want to spend the money on the effects. Sure. Which is ridiculous considering that you have Jon and Dany petting dragons through this entire damn series.
I mean, Jon's a bitch. I hate Jon anyway. I wish he had died and stayed dead to begin with.
Go ahead, Stingray. I'm sorry.
Everybody loves Jon. Everybody wants Jon and Dany to be together, whatever. I don't know, man. I mean, hopefully it's going to be some sort of a curveball. If they do that in 2 episodes, that's going to be bullshit. That's entirely too much stuff to be fleshed out in 2 episodes.
I was a big Jon Snow fan, but literally this season he's done nothing. He's done nothing but yell at a dragon.
He knows nothing.
Yeah, I mean, he's done nothing this season. So, but that will be his, and I don't. Will they somehow link that into Azor Ahai that he kills Dany because she's insane? I mean, I don't know. I mean, they may be completely beyond the Azor Ahai thing at this point. But
yeah, I mean, is Jaime going back to kill Cersei, or is he going back to defend Cersei?
I hope to God he's going back to kill Cersei. I hope to God he is. But again, and that would actually that prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
It would make perfect sense for him to kill his sister because he sees that she's too far gone, and that would fulfill that prophecy. But again, we're subverting expectations. So he may run back there and jump right in bed with her. I mean, who at this point,
he should kill himself. He should kill her and then kill himself.
Well, it's like the last season's finale when her son died and she claimed the throne for herself. Jaime gave her a look like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?"
Mhm.
And we speculated from that moment like he's going to take her out.
Yeah.
Right. So we've had up to almost 6 episodes now where we're thinking, "Oh, he's got to take her out." So it's like they haven't really given us anything new. It's more or less, while I've enjoyed the season so far, I do think that it's been predictable, unlike other seasons. It's been predictable. Everything is laid out.
Well, I mean, she's told Euron that's his child, which is what I figured she was going to do. So now Euron's invested.
But Tyrion goes down there and says, the baby. And so Euron's got to be thinking, how the hell does he know about this baby? Hopefully he's not a dimwit and that will spark some drama.
Oh, that's a good, that's a, I hadn't thought about that, but But I so hope that Jaime's going to go take out Euron and then, maybe try to plead to his sister, like, look, you've lost, let's go. And she's like, no, I'm here till death. And he, I don't know. He's got to take her out. I just hope he doesn't revert back to loving her and they die together and like they're executed together by Dany, holding each other's hands. That would just be so awful.
Will Bran shoot Jaime out of the tower?
Will Bran do anything?
Yeah.
Exactly. Will Bran do anything? Yeah, that's a good question.
Do you guys think that we missed out on Brienne's nude scene?
I did. I mean, that's just me.
Come on, we're all curious, right?
You can't do the fan shipping hookup and the breakup scene in 6 minutes.
I agree.
That should have been 4 episodes apart if you're going to do that.
Yeah.
Because I knew it from that moment, and I knew from the Sansa. What doesn't kill me makes me stronger. I mean, Twitter blew up over that nonsense about her saying, because all this bad stuff happened to me, I'm a better person. Blah, blah, blah. And I knew it. I knew people were going to get upset with that, and they did.
Why? That's bullshit. That's
because they're claiming that Sansa wouldn't be a complete woman if she hadn't been raped and sexually assaulted.
Yeah,
she wouldn't be as ruthless as she is.
Has Jessica Chastain even watched any of the series? It seems like she hasn't.
Is that what it was?
It's her and the woman who did the Wrinkle in Time, Ava DuVernay.
Oh, you know what? I give 0 shits what they think. So
argument is more that someone who's been raped and abused wouldn't look at it as something that made them stronger. They certainly wouldn't thank their abusers. I don't think that every abuse victim needs to think the same way about their abuse or their abusers, or that a character who lives in this world needs to think like the SJWs of our reality. But I'm just saying that's their position on it.
I mean, of course, it's a shitty, terrible thing that happened to her, but wouldn't you want to take that and turn it into a positive? Like, it turned me into a stronger person?
She's playing the Game of Thrones, right? I mean, she's not...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I even thought there was an element of what she was saying that, like, it kind of felt like she was reaching out to the Hound a little bit. Kind of thanking him for, like, the times he protected her, but kind of letting her guard down a little bit with him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There just seemed to be, like, something nice in that scene between them that to then see people sort of, like, blow it out of proportion and this attack, because, of course, the series is written by 2 white men, so naturally they wouldn't understand things like this. I don't know. I thought it was a nice scene, and then to find out later everybody was bitching about it was kind of annoying.
Well, do we think I mean, we're going to get the climatic fight between the Hound and the Mountain, right? That's a given.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Gotta have that.
Does Arya die in this show?
No. We will get Clegane Bowl. That might be the last piece of fan service they give us is Clegane Bowl. So let's have Clegane Bowl. Let's have a nice knockdown, drag out fight. But and really, I mean, at this point, the Mountain's no longer his brother. He's a zombie.
Basically.
But still, you know, we'll take what we can get. Let's have a nice knockdown, drag out fight.
Like they live?
Exactly. I think the Hound should kill him, but the Hound will be so injured from the fight that he's basically done for, and Arya will give him the death blow like she should have given him seasons ago.
Well, there's going to be some fire, and he has to overcome his fear of fire in order to kill the Mountain, right?
And that should be the end of Arya's arc. Arya does not need to kill Cersei. Arya does not need to sit on the throne. She's done enough.
She doesn't want the throne. She's not going to take the throne if it's given to her.
In terms of fan service, I want her to kill Cersei.
No, God no.
Sure she's going to. I don't think she's going to get the Night King and Cersei.
No,
she's not going to get both.
No way. No freaking way.
If you could switch it, Eric, would you rather have her kill Cersei than the Night King? If you had to pick one.
I probably
if you told me to pick one, I would have picked Cersei. Just because I felt like
that's the bill on her list. Her kill bill list.
Cersei basically made. Well, again, that's right. Her dog escaped, but it's like Cersei made her dad kill a dog. You know, maybe that's the least of the things that Cersei was responsible for. But I sort of feel like she's had this coming from Arya for a while.
Yeah. That should let Arya put down the Hound like she should have years ago, and then let Arya go off into her. Whatever she's going off into, she's just going to be a traveling assassin or God knows what. She doesn't want to be a lady. She doesn't want to be a queen. She just wants to be no one, I guess.
Does the last dragon die?
No, maybe the last dragon will. No, the last dragon will transport Aegon Targaryen to the north to be with the free folk.
Perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
I still like that meme though. I want to see Ghost the direwolf just come riding in on the last dragon.
Well, what if it's Jon with Ghost on the dragon going out to the north?
That's epic. That would be like. And then I've heard rumors. Maybe Eric, maybe it was you that said it, but I've heard rumors that there's I remember that there's a scene with Tyrion and Varys, is that his name? Mm-hmm. On a ship in season 4, and a dragon flies over them, and people are saying that there's a 4th dragon, or there's another place of more dragons.
It was Tyrion and Jorah, and I never thought that was a different dragon. I thought that was just Drogon, because Drogon was put out just flying around. He disappeared for a while, but that he was I always assumed that was a dragon. We already knew that it was Drogon.
Well, here's my prediction for the rest of the season. Again, Dany's the big bad. Dany is the big bad. Everybody who stands in her way will be burnt. All the innocent people inside the Red Keep are going to get burnt. They're dead. They're done. Forget about it. Varys and or Tyrion are gonna die from treason, from their treason talk. They made sure to let the audience know that they're talking treason that last episode. So Tyrion can't die, but again, we're subverting expectations here, so who knows? One or both of them are gonna die. Jaime will die with his sister. They will die together. I hope he kills her first, though. But I mean, who knows? I just hate that his whole redemption arc has been just crapped on in one episode. Now he's crawling back to her. I hate that. But they're dead. They're both dead. And Jon will have to put down Dany. Jon will put her down. Now, will she tell him before he does that she's pregnant? I imagine that. That could be spicy. That could be spicy.
Some of this feels like you're reading some of the threads on the Free Folk subreddit, because there's some people who think that they've got like actual leaks or real predictions.
Uh,
Familiar compared with some of that stuff.
I
Could be right. In fact.
Reddit is, well, that's a whole other, I don't understand Reddit, but that's a whole other, that could be a whole other episode. I don't understand Reddit. I'm not the Reddit memes. I don't know. I just don't get Reddit. But yeah, he's going to have to kill her.
Because you're a fucking noob. Oh shit.
No, I just have a life.
That's
Anyway.
not fair. Fuck you.
All right, I muted you. So yeah, but I mean, that is definitely what they've set it up. They've set her up to be. She's going to follow in her father's footsteps. It's going to be burn everyone, and somebody will have to take her out. And who else is going to take her out? It's got to be Jon Snow. Now that leaves us with who's going to sit on the throne. Jon's not going to sit on the throne. Tyrion. Maybe.
In the
Or
scenario you're outlining, I don't know that Tyrion survives.
well, but I said one or both of them's got to die for treason. That's going to be another thing that pushes people over the edge. That she's killing these two one of these two characters, maybe both of them. That's got to be another thing that pushes people over the edge. Like, okay, she's lost it.
For them to have let so many main characters live through episode 3, they've got to have big plans for everyone at this point.
They've got, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I can't imagine they would kill Tyrion. I can't imagine they would kill Tyrion, but I don't know.
Well, she's got to do something for us to hate her so much that for us to want to kill her after 7 seasons of rooting for her.
That could be
right.
it.
Exactly. I mean, that doesn't seem like they would do that in 2 episodes.
Yeah, that seems like the only thing that would galvanize people against her.
But who are you going to root for? You going to root for Cersei? I mean,
well,
at this point, I hope she wins.
This whole thing about like turning Dany into the Mad King, I really hope that this turns out not to be correct. And even the way some fans are jumping all over Dany, because it's not just the show that's doing it. There's some fans that think she's going overboard. I'm like, I don't think there's any level of ruthlessness that I would reject in the name of getting rid of Cersei. Like, have they been watching the same show I've been watching for these past like 7 years?
We've seen her be ruthless in the past,
but to bad guys.
But to be, yeah, exactly. But the way that they set her up in that episode, the way that she snapped at Jon, like, don't tell anybody, never tell anybody. And then, we just, again, it's 1 episode, which, I mean, this should be like,
what has she done that's so ruthless to think she's going to snap and go crazy?
Because she said that she's going to start firing on the innocent people to get to Cersei.
She doesn't have a choice.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
what would be the alternative?
Well, they're going to look at it as like, well, she's going to remember her dad was going to kill a bunch of innocent people too until Jaime killed her dad. So maybe Jaime will kill her too. I don't know, be the Queen Slayer.
Yeah.
The one thing, because I'm with you, Jay, but the one plan that I don't see why they couldn't try it is the one that like Sansa and Arya were suggesting, which is let's just starve her out. Because I think even Tyrion was kind of advocating that. It's like, let's surround them. We'll even cut off the navy. We can pick those ships apart. There's no reason to rush this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we had 5 more episodes, we could
didn't mind that idea, by the way. But Dany, I thought Dany was sort of right too, to a certain extent. Of like, the longer we let them remain in power, the more opportunity for problems. I still don't think Dany's out of
another thing the social justice warriors were attacking was that one of the few African American women in the show was just beheaded in chains. So they went after that aspect as well.
Oh God.
Well, that was symbolic. Yeah.
Oh, I missed that one. I didn't see that.
And so, so there's so many, and then the other thing is like, you have Daenerys, she's built up as a strong woman and all that stuff. And now we're talking about overthrowing her and having a man take charge, and all this kind of thing. So, I mean, if this thing ends with a patriarchy type of thing, I mean, Twitter is going to explode.
That's true. That's true.
Don't even go near Twitter on the night that happens.
Okay. Well, this is another thing that I've thought about that might happen because they're talking about how there doesn't need to be a throne. What if they destroy the throne and there's just like a committee that's like, you've got Tyrion, you've got the dude that's got those fingers on his hand cut off. Can't think of his name. I really like his character.
Yeah, Sir Davos is solid.
Sir Davos, yeah, love Sir Davos. Love Sir Davos. Like you've got Tyrion, you've got Sir Davos, you've got a couple other, smart people. They're the committee that runs the Seven Kingdoms. I think that would be better than having just one person sit on the throne. Because, like I said, who's left? Who's going to sit on the throne now?
They established the United Nations before.
But again, we're talking if we're going to starve them out and all this stuff, and then have it and form a diplomatic committee and all that stuff. We're talking 6-7 more episodes, and we have 2.
Yeah.
So I think I agree with you. I don't think there's going to be a throne because you need to have some finality to it. And the only finale is the throne is destroyed. Everything becomes a democracy, or they all get wiped out and Cersei's still on the throne. Because then there's no one there to challenge her, and she's got the dragon.
I think she's got to die. If Jaime doesn't kill her, I don't know, but she's got to die. There's no way she lives.
Of course, she's going to die.
But let's look. But I mean, let's look at who's left to sit on the throne if they don't destroy the throne. Who's left? To sit
my
on the
prediction, because I'm the biggest Game of Thrones fan of all time. Gimli gets a stepping box, and he sits on the throne.
Gimli
and my axe.
Oh, yeah. Gendry.
Well, he said Gimli from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Gimli.
Okay. Well, Gendry is the likely successor to the throne.
Well, so he is, and Daenerys made him a full-blown Baratheon.
Mm-hmm.
I could see it being Sansa before it being him.
Yeah, I say Sansa only because if what you're saying, Pizzelle, Cersei's got to die, Daenerys has got to die, Jon Snow's not going to be there by himself, so that only leaves Sansa, right?
Wait, or they could do the ultimate.
Since they're married.
They could do the ultimate cash grab and have a cup of Starbucks venti and then a pack of Oreos. Nabisco and Starbucks. You know how much money George R.R. Martin could buy all of England.
Those are powerhouses.
Fuck it.
But okay, so we've got Tyrion, we've got Sansa, we've got Gendry, maybe. We've got who's even left? Bran. We've got Bran.
Just plop them on there to sit there.
But you know what?
Anyway.
Listen. When Bran said, "I don't want anymore," you've got a king there who is completely black and white, who is completely without emotion. That's gonna lead him one way or the other. He doesn't want. He doesn't need.
And he's basically eternal, right? Because how long was the three-eyed raven?
Well, I guess
the old dude from The Exorcist. How long had he been under the ground?
I don't know. That's a good question.
So you could almost have an eternal king who, like you say, is kind of everything you'd maybe, but arguably is everything you'd want in a king who no passion, doesn't lust after anything. It's just he can dial up on the high-speed internet in his brain, the history of everything to know, what didn't work before. And, maybe say it's okay, well, they did that 400 years ago and here's what happened. So maybe they know to make better decisions.
Well, yeah, he's proven himself to be completely worthless so far, so why not put him on there?
I have a complete nerd question that probably no one even on Reddit has ever asked. So I'll ask you guys, who do you think gets the last line in the series?
Ooh, now that's a good question.
Ghost.
No, here it is. Here it is. The big red-haired guy. The big red-haired guy
Mormon?
from the north. Yeah, love him. He's going to greet Jon Snow when he returns to the north. And he's going to go, "You coward, did you just shit my pants?"
Who shit my pants?
How about he hugs him and says, "You now know everything, Jon Snow."
Then they proceed.
I think it's Sir Davos. That'll be my dark horse bet for the last lines of the series.
That would be good. Tyrion would be a good one if he's around. He would be. Yeah.
That's why I'm not choosing Tyrion, is because I'm not sure he makes it through the finale. I don't want that to be the case.
Okay, does Tyrion make it to the finale, or does Tyrion, if he dies, if he is going to die, let's say he does he die in the finale, or does he die in this coming episode?
The finale.
Ooh. If he dies if he dies at the end of this next episode, that would make, by Dany's hand, that would make us hate Dany going into the finale. And
because I honestly thought he was going to die at the end of the season, at the last episode, when he was just standing there. I thought after they killed Melisandre, I thought she was just going to roast him or get him with the arrows. Get him with the arrows. I mean, Cersei, get him with the arrows.
Yeah.
Well, and that didn't make sense either, too, because I mean, Cersei's got. There's like she could have ended the war right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But whatever. That's too much common sense.
I think Tyrion's going to live until the last episode. Everything's over with, and then Bronn pops out. And hits him with the crossbow.
What about Bronn being on the throne? He's the dark horse, man.
Sure, we'd love that.
That would be good. So here's a question. They're sort of making it seem like, because of what happened in episode 3 and the fact that Cersei's bought all these guys, that it's pretty much an even battle. Again, Dany still has one dragon, but they're kind of making it seem like, well, they've got the dragon nullified with the arrow shooters. What if? I don't know why. I just have this feeling, especially given the way last episode ended, I don't see this being an even battle at all. Like, and what if that's the subversion is we're expecting like, oh, hey, another big battle. And in fact, Dany's just going to light these fuckers up. And the Grey Worm is going to go in there kicking ass too. And really, they just steamroll over them. And that would play into the whole Dany as a mad queen, because like you say, maybe she just starts, bulldozing through civilians. Maybe people are trying to surrender and she's just lighting them on fire. I don't know.
I have a feeling
that's the way to go.
I have a feeling Euron Greyjoy will be the one that kills Cersei at this point, because the fact is, right before you came in, Eric, I said Tyrion mentioned the baby, and how would he have known about the baby? Because Euron's got to be thinking, how does he know about this baby, right? It makes me wonder, and because like talking about subverting expectations, we all think it's going to be Jaime. It ends up being Euron Greyjoy, a nothing character, basically.
That's
how anticlimactic would that be?
That would suck. But I suppose I guess it's possible.
Unless it's Arya wearing Euron Greyjoy's face.
Oh, no.
Yes, that would be great. I still want that.
Oh, no.
See, I think that's one of the reasons why people hate episode 3 so much, is because people hate Arya. And I know that for a fact, because every time I've done one of these shows with you guys, I've talked about how much I love Arya, and you all say, no, she sucks. And then Cole chimes in and says, the entire book with Arya sucks.
I like Arya.
Book with Arya, and it sucks.
Arya is one of the best characters.
Yeah, I like Arya. I mean, but I think, if you're the one that takes out the Night King, that's your, checkmate for you. You know what I mean? Her arc needs to finish with taking out, or with, giving the mercy death to the Hound, and then let that be that with Arya.
Can I get a real talk?
Real talk.
Jay, this is you in therapy. Arya doesn't suck, but everyone thinks she does. What the fuck, man?
Well,
Jay, you need to calm down.
I'm just saying, if Bran had pulled his dress up and pulled a knife out of there and stabbed the Night King, everybody would be like, "Yay, it's the best episode ever."
No, it didn't matter who killed the Night King at that point. The payoff was ruined. There was
I agree. I agree.
Okay.
Have you guys discussed the YouTube? I mean, I'm not talking about little people on YouTube. We're talking big channels on YouTube discussing the fact that they feel like they're taking a page out of Rian Johnson, The Last Jedi. But you guys already talked about that the Night King being killed. They compared it to Rian Johnson killing Snoke.
Yeah.
Of just like,
I just don't think that's a fair comparison.
Cersei
has always been a villain in the series, a prominent one, whereas Snoke was really the only guy there. And there was so much mystery wrapped. I see what you guys are saying, and I kind of get conceptually what you're doing there. I just think
it's not me. It's not me. It's just a theory that a lot of people are writing.
I totally agree with it. We got Snoked with the Night King. We got Snoked with the Night King. I totally agree with it. Totally agree with it. I think the Night King's death was 10 times less satisfying than Snoke's death. You know what I mean? 10 times less satisfying than the Snoke's death. Because we had one movie with Snoke in it to think about, well, who's Snoke and what's Snoke all about and blah, blah, blah. We had 7 seasons to think about the Night King and the White Walkers. And how many times does Jon Snow say the real war is the war between the living and the dead? That's the only war that matters. And in the end, it really didn't matter. It was an hour and a half of filler just to remove the White Walkers from the story with no payoff. They didn't even kill major characters. Let's not go back into it. I was hugely disappointed.
How the hell is Sam and Gilly still alive? That's all I want to know. Sam is on his back, stabbing at things, and he managed to make it without a scratch.
I don't know how any of them survived, honestly, because they were all surrounded by White Walkers and they were all going like they were about to die, but they just kept going
and none of them, maybe with the exception of Brienne and a few others, very, very few of them were as trained as the Dothraki, and those guys got taken out like that.
I mean, yeah. Well, and oh God, yeah. Well, not to mention the fact that they established like 5 minutes before that a white can hear drops of blood hitting the floor, but a legion of whites, several White Walker generals can't hear a teenage girl running through snow. They can't hear her leaping in the air, screaming while she's
no one though.
Well, she must be light as a feather.
No, she is.
You know what I mean?
I just wish she stabbed him in the dick.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Okay, let's move on from Game of Thrones. I have a big feeling that most of our viewers are not Game of Thrones fans. So we'll just move on from Game of Thrones.
Question our fan base.
And let's talk about. Well, we've got some people in the chat who do watch. Let's see, Gary. I always mess up your last name, Gary. I apologize. He agrees with me. Bran will sit on the Iron Throne. Just watch. I'm telling you, he doesn't want.
Like Tyrion's dad.
He says D&D is working on the next trilogy for Star Wars films. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier. Gary also says Game of Thrones was like the only fantasy I got into, but it's just been pretty crap lately. Yeah. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about a couple of upcoming movies that I'm really excited for. Have you guys seen the trailers for Brightburn and Crawl?
I don't know if I've seen the latest trailer for Brightburn, but yeah, I saw there was like one out a month or a couple months back that I saw that looked interesting.
Look up Crawl. It looks like a really fun, straightforward, not pretentious. It's like a nature runs amok movie. It's a woman in a flood, and there's an alligator, and it looks really freaking good. Looks like a really fun horror movie. And I'm really interested in Brightburn too. I think the trailers have looked pretty good for it.
Crawl is Alexandra Aja. So.
Alexandra Aja, James Wan is producing.
The star of it is the girl from, I think, the 4th, or maybe it was the 5th Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Kayla Scodelario. Anyway, she's hot. That's how I know who that is. Holy cow, wait, Barry Pepper's in that movie. When's the last time Barry Pepper was in anything?
I think it might have been Battlefield Earth. That was the last time we saw Barry Pepper.
It took him that long to get it back together.
But yeah, I mean, it looks like just a simple, straightforward, fun, horror movie. I'm excited for it.
It looks a lot like a crocodilian version of the shark movie Bait, which is about a hurricane that floods the town, and the shark comes into a supermarket. The hurricane basically floods the town, and a woman visiting her father ends up in a house trapped with an alligator in the house. But I'm a sucker for alligator movies, so I'm going to love it.
Looking forward to that for sure. That'll be fun.
I saw the film The Prodigy the other day. The recent film.
Oh yeah.
It's got the girl from The Orange Is the New Black in it, and I almost didn't even recognize her. The lead from that show. It's better than you might imagine. I'll just say that.
It's got the little boy that played Georgie in It too.
Oh, okay, that's where I recognize that kid from. Okay.
Yeah. That one came and went pretty quick from theaters. I don't remember hearing very much about it. Orc asked me if I've seen the Maw trailer. I have seen the Maw trailer.
It's the stupidest name ever for a movie.
I don't. Yeah.
Haven't we seen that movie before?
Don't know how I feel about that one, but are there any other upcoming movies that you guys are excited for?
I think the Mom movie is going to be, try not to wake people up. Real talk, Jay.
Real talk.
That's the third one for tonight. Record. Fuck yeah. I think Ma is going to be like 2019's version of Swim Fan. Remember that cool movie?
Oh my god.
She fucks her in the pool and then she just ruins his whole life. She's like, "Oh, I met your mom." And she's like, "What the fuck?" It's like what happened to Michael Phelps, like if he met like the wrong girl. Swim Fan, Olympic edition. That's the Blu-ray.
Oh man, a Swim Fan reference. I did not see that coming. Oh my god. But are there any other movies you guys are looking forward to?
I'm really excited about this plan of Star Wars, Avatar, Star Wars, Avatar, Star Wars, Avatar that we're going to get for the next 10 years. My Christmas is now complete.
So can I ask a question? And I don't maybe this is the wrong crowd because I'm guessing I might know the answer, but like I don't understand the appeal of Avatar. Did any of you guys like Avatar? Was that something you were interested in?
I liked it the first time I saw it, and this is the only time I've ever seen it. I own the Blu-ray. I've never watched it. Same here.
I liked it. I didn't think it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. I don't understand why it became such a huge, box office juggernaut.
Right.
But I mean, I thought it was good. It was very derivative, but it was good, not great.
Good. Well, that's, if nothing else, I feel like my feelings are validated because like I didn't hate it. It was fine. But I guess that's the thing. Is like I can't understand why it's like, oh, well, we've got a special land at Disney World now that's like Avatar land, and we're gonna have this massive trilogy of movies, and we've been working on it for like
4 more
15 years. It's like the property does not justify the level of time and energy that is being poured into it. I'm sorry.
I agree.
Are we the wrong demographic for that film?
No, there is no demographic for it.
Well, even the demographic for it is 10 years older now.
They've moved on.
Like people that were 12 when they saw it to begin with.
Well, let me keep this in mind too. The guy who's writing the Avatar sequels is the same guy who wrote Alien vs. Predator Requiem.
Yes.
Well, I mean, he didn't like the movie, so that's not his fault. No.
I just want to say, go ahead, Lauren.
There's no audience for Avatar. This is Jim Cameron has money, and no one's gonna say no to him. But it meant money because it was on the 3D wave. Mm-hmm. It was something people were able to get an experience from, and it caught kind of like a social viral.
And it doesn't matter what Endgame makes. It doesn't matter if it blows past Avatar or not. What the websites are not telling you is even if it clears Avatar's record, there's only still one winner, and that's Gone with the Wind. It will always be $3.8 billion when adjusted for inflation. But of course, the websites do not even want to acknowledge that. And so they're going to just say it's the most successful movie of all time. It's not. It's not.
Well, but you missed some of our earlier discussion. We don't need to legislate this, but Lauren and I were talking about this a little bit earlier on the show, Cameron, and you're right. In pure numbers, you're correct. I think we were sort of questioning whether it's even a fair compare. Like, I don't know that it's fair to compare, like, when Gone with the Wind was like the only thing that people could go do. The only option you had.
When it was 5 cents to go see a movie and it was 3.8.
I understand, but adjust that for inflation, but also adjust for circumstances. Because we were even talking about, is it even fair to compare the performance of movies in the 80s, where maybe they only had like 2 showings a night, whereas now Endgame is running 24. Not now, but when it first came out, Endgame was running 24/7. The opportunity.
And I think that's unfair too. Unless you're going to run Blade 4 24 hours a day, why does Endgame have? Why did they allow it to run 24 hours?
Here's the problem. Here's the real problem. They're all arbitrary numbers. If you want to take it and say what's the most successful, most profitable film of all time, Blair Witch wins hands down.
Well, yeah. Well, in terms of what it cost, yeah.
And but the problem is, Gone with the Wind has had how many reissues? It has shown up how many times? There was not as much competition on the marketplace. In certain areas of the country, it was in a deeper recession than others when it came out initially. There's too many variables to ever use just straight line inflated adjusted for inflation. There isn't even a standard movie going price to this day, but there certainly wasn't at the time of its release. And I've heard actually it argued that if you really look at numbers for films like Wizard of Oz, they were horrifically underreported anyway. There wasn't modern reporting on what these films made.
Oh,
it's all
bombed. I mean, it didn't do well until the reissues.
Right, but I think it's not negotiable that it probably, if you use that same adjusted for inflation metric, it probably blows away anything we've seen of the recent blockbusters in earnings.
Sure,
but the reality is, people make a lot of the adjustments, and you can't do it. You really can't. Also, it's a horrifically corrupt industry, whereas theaters were misreporting their numbers, so they got to keep more of the box office. No one knows.
And remember, every studio, if you go and look at the ledgers, they have it crafted where every single movie has never turned a profit.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I'm just very skeptical of that. It's kind of a bugaboo for me because I just absolutely kind of feel that you have to judge each film on its individual merits of how successful it is. When you start comparing even 2 movies, I mean, the contract for 2 movies.
I'm not talking about, I was just talking about monetary, like true monetary, not necessarily in terms of quality of content.
Right, but we have no way to track even what went back to the studio directly of that figure versus what ended up in the exhibitor's hands or whatever. There was no reporting from back then.
Mm-hmm.
There's just nothing. I would agree that, listen, at the end of the day, Endgame is going to make a shit ton of money, and it's going to pay off Disney's expense of buying the Marvel brand all by itself, pretty much, which is just an insane thing. That's enough. I mean, do I want it to take down all vestiges of Jim Cameron? Of course I do. Everyone knows that.
Yes, so do I.
But to be honest with you, it doesn't even matter if it does, because I want to see that little film based on an original property that comes out of nowhere and makes a modest profit. I want to see that. That's where I care. These big films, I don't know.
I just remember one time on Twitter, James Gunn wrote something about Black Panther, like crushing the weekend and stuff like that. And one of my responses was, well, of course it crushed the weekend because it's riding, 19 other films that were extremely popular and profitable. People want to see this new one. It's huge. And he went after me in a series of tweets saying, how dare you take this away from the African-American community and blah, blah, blah. And my thing is, hey, if Black Panther had been the first one, it would never have made as much money as it did. It did because it was anticipated, but it was also had that Marvel brand behind it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Hey, can I soapbox for just a moment?
Sure.
Hey, so I was thinking about this actual subject as it relates to Brie Larson, actually, and I finally realized where I really feel about the whole subject. Because I've been pretty moderate on this. I mean, I'm snarky as anything on every subject, but I don't think this has anything to do with sexism. I don't think this has anything to do with her comments. I don't think it has anything to do with anything anymore. What I think it is that artists like Brie Larson who come into something like a comic book movie don't realize how much it means to its core audience. They don't want it politicized at all in any direction. I think there's a tipping point, whereas people are just tired of hearing more than the story on screen. They don't want to know anyone's political opinions. They don't want to know anyone's social position. They might agree with them 100%, but at a certain point, they just want the thing they love to remain pure. And I think that we're seeing a big backlash against everyone who is platforming things that people care about, no matter what they're using that platform to express. And I think that's really where it's going. So it's the people who, they people who hate guns who will never watch a Planet of the Apes movie again, or the feminists who feel that Captain Marvel didn't go far enough. It doesn't really matter. The core audience is saying, hey, when I was a kid, I loved this and I didn't think about any of this crap. Can I just have that back? Can it be that thing that I loved, please? Can I have it back? And the answer from Hollywood is pretty consistently no.
Mm.
It's pretty consistently no, because we think this is valuable, even if it hurts your little feelings. And that's what they're really saying when they're calling people misogynist or racist or sexist. They're really saying, no, we want to play with the things you care about. And the audience is saying, I don't want to let go of it. I don't want to surrender it to you. That's what's really going on, I think. I think all the rest of it's window dressing. And the same thing there, taking it away from the African-American community. I don't know about you. I don't think Black Panther only sold tickets to African-Americans. I don't think I think the majority of fans were comic book fans or comic book movie fans, first and foremost.
And it's not even the first. Like, that was the thing that drove me nuts about it. It's like, and these aren't Blade.
Yeah.
Blade was like, Wesley Snipes in his heyday, which, by the way, Blade's a really good movie. Blade 2 is fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of bothered me that they were just sort of ignoring those movies. If you want to get kind of corny, I'd also bring up Meteor Man. Mm-hmm. The reason I like that movie is because he was a superhero in Washington, D.C. Again, kind of a goofy movie. Bill Cosby's in it. Don't want to trigger anybody. But that was the part of that. First of all, Lauren, I think that's very insightful.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're onto something. I don't know that I can completely decouple it from politics, though, because Brie Larson certainly doesn't. And again, I think we talked about this. I'm not that judgmental about her. I think the reason why the audience had the reaction to her that they did is, again, I think you're onto something. But very specifically, that core audience that like respects these properties, that watches them, she basically went out and told them, it's like, well, I don't want you talking to me. I don't want you interviewing me. And I think there's a betrayal from the audience, from the people who support these properties. Like, I'm the one who like put the money in Marvel's pocket. What do you mean? What do you mean? What the fuck? Don't talk to you about it. It wasn't women of color reading Captain Marvel in the 80s. It was
and until recently, Captain Marvel was a man.
Well, I think but the conversation is multi-level. On one hand, it is this, it is political, or it is about racism or sexism or homophobia or transphobia, whatever you want to call it, whatever ism. But under that, what's really, really, really setting the conversation off, because honestly, actors say dumb crap all the time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't catch fire like this. I don't think it is really the politics. If she was starring in a little indie drama and said the same thing, it would not have made the news at all. This is specifically about the fact that a whole lot of people have invested in these 22 movies and in the comic books that preceded them for decades. A whole lot of people's childhoods are just wrapped up on a very core level. It's in their DNA. And to have that, when she comes out and says this, basically the underlying message is, I know you love all this comic book stuff, but it's not that important to me. It's silly stuff. It's comic books, right? I'm going to do something important with it. I'm going to use it to do something. And that form of platforming is extremely off-putting to people, no matter if they agree or disagree. There was a lot of women reviewers and commentators and YouTube personalities and just people on the street who took just as harshly to her comments as men did. And I don't believe it's because they disagree with feminism. Hell, I really consider myself in some ways a feminist, though I hate that word because I think we should be pushing everyone, not just one group. But I can't agree with taking a soapbox and putting it on a property that people feel a certain way about. Can you imagine if someone tried to make a extremely pro-Pakistani Friday the 13th film? It doesn't work, right? It doesn't make any sense. Make a big pro-Pakistani horror film, fine. That's not a problem. But when you attach it to something that already exists, that already has a fan base, you're asking for trouble. And I think that's really the real core of what's going on.
What about when she says, and again, I'm not picking on Brie Larson, except just this is what she said. I don't care what a 40-year-old white dude has to say about A Wrinkle in Time. As if to say, only African Americans can review African American movies. Only women can review women films. And
was that Brie Larson or Ava DuVernay?
No, that was Brie Larson.
Brie Larson.
I have a real issue with that. If they want everyone to be equal, everyone to come together, we can't segregate groups as if to say all women would give it a positive 100% Rotten Tomato score. All African Americans would give Black Panther 100% Rotten Tomato. As if A Wrinkle in Time got brought down on the RT score because white people didn't like it. Believe me, there were a lot of white SJW critics who were pulling for that movie, and they still had to give it a bad rating because that's their job.
Right, but again, like when Liam Neeson made the idiotic comment about going out with a gun looking for a black man after a friend had been raped, right? Does everyone remember that? Well, that's the point. I barely remember it because within the news cycle, it was gone within, 4 days? Yeah. The Brie Larson thing stuck around. It's because the property she is associated with and the level of stupidity of the comment was unbearable. But I think it has more to do with the love of the source material than anything else.
Well, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I've said it in the past too. I just don't want, make a political movie and put your politics in it. Don't put your politics in
Ghostbusters.
Exactly. Don't put your politics in a comic book movie.
No one was upset about the hate you give having a political message, because that's what it was, right?
Exactly. Right. Well, and I.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I echo your sentiment too, Eric. Of when Black Panther came out, forget Blade. This is the first African American led comic book movie. No, it's not. But people believed that it was, and that became part of the, the mantra for that movie, to rally people. Forget about Blade. Forget about Meteor Man. Forget about Blank Man. Forget about.
Handyman.
Yeah, sure.
Not Candy. I said Handyman from In Living Color.
I like
that.
Even when Captain Marvel was out, they tried to make the same claim, like this is the very first female-led comic book movie, and Wonder Woman was like 2 years ago.
Elektra,
Supergirl, 89.
Yeah.
I like the Blade trilogy so much that when they said it was the first black comic book film, I love that the Blade trilogy so much. It was like basically new school, younger millennial generation, I guess, that said, like, they're like, did you see Friday the 13th or Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street? And they only refer to the remakes. And then I want to commit suicide. That's kind of what it felt like to me. I was like, oh God, I love Saw 7.
Yeah. And it's Marvel denying their own properties, trying to pretend that their own properties don't exist.
And I guess one of the things that upset me, just real quick, as I will go back to this, but the whole Ghostbusters thing, I hate to bring it up, but it wasn't so much the fact that they said anyone who dislikes this movie is basically racist, misogynistic, etc. It was the fact that there were legitimate criticisms of the first trailer posted, And Sony Columbia went in and deleted those comments and left the sexist, misogynistic comments there. So to paint their narrative, to create, they figured that was going to be their narrative, and they stuck to it. Anyone who had a legitimate criticism, I'm not kidding you, saw their comments removed off YouTube. And that I have an issue, because now you're creating a narrative, and the websites are picking that up because they know there's foot traffic in that narrative, and it's even if people are arguing the comments, it's going to get the clicks because people are going to keep coming back and arguing.
Well, I think I brought it up the episode before last, where this culture of calling people misogynists and racist and sexist if they don't agree with you 100% about a movie is completely, it's like a concerted effort by the studios, or by it's an effort to shut people up, or to make people's criticism seem less valid, because you're saying, well, they don't like it because of X, Y, and Z that has nothing to do with their criticism of it.
And that is a way to get them to shut them up, because if you get attacked by like 20 female horror writers or something like that, and they're all friends, you will get ganged up on, and then you'll be like, okay, fine, I'll just go away.
It's the exact same thing that politicians use to rally their base. They know that if they're talking about gun control, that rallies people. You know what I mean? That gets people lit up. If they're talking about the abortion thing, that gets people riled up. That gets people, you know what I mean?
Cameron, that shit's so funny when you get the 20 female writers pissed off, because then you have 200 guys that all want to fuck them, and then they all get mad at you too. That's like what I live for on Twitter.
I don't want people saying, "Oh, I'm just picking on women." It goes the other way too. If you're a woman writer, you can have 20 guys picking on you. It's just
and if you're a transvestite, you can have 25, or an It. Chapter 2.
I don't know where that went.
But yeah, so they know that if they start throwing these,
or a chick with a dick,
let's just move on, for Christ's sake. Let's just move on. I think we've made our point.
The only thing I wanted to just note, this is just maybe to put a cap on the just, I think Marvel was at its best when their sort of defining question coming into their movies was, wouldn't it be cool if, Iron Man did this, or, about like Endgame, spoilers, wouldn't it be cool if Captain America finally picked up Thor's hammer and like used it? And like, wouldn't it be like, again, it's like these fanboy, gleeful childhood moments, and not this like, wouldn't it be cool if Captain Marvel became a symbol for, women the world over to join the military and be this like, it's like, no, that's not. You're sort of co-opting how this whole thing started, what made it successful, for something else. Because right now there's a lot of the buzz about they're apparently going to announce that a character we know in the Marvel universe is gay, which I'm on the record. I think it's going to be Maria Hill. But fine, like, okay, great. What are we fighting like a giant rock monster? Because I don't really care who's gay or straight. Like in the Marvel movies too, you have to think about it. With the exception of Iron Man, the Tony Pepper kind of romance was really maybe the only romance. Well, and maybe Cap and his girl, but like,
and Thor and Jane Foster.
These movies for the romance. It's like, okay, is Ant-Man going to grow 60 feet tall and kick over an airplane? Like that's what people are showing up for.
Mm-hmm.
And so it feels strange to me that they're getting away from, I guess, what I think they started to do. Like,
well, it's also
like, wouldn't it be cool if we took our franchises and smashed them all into the same movie? Wouldn't that be neat? I don't know.
And if we really want to get away from the Sausage Factory audience, it's like Glee, right? The show Glee. Season 1 was just about a drama class, musical class, and then they went, "Oh, we have an audience. Oh, let's turn this into a giant after-school special."
Because
for every episode,
Murphy, man, that guy, he's nothing but like a political talking point.
But that whole first season was just a story about these kids and the teacher, right? And this is happening all over, where it's like like going back to Rian Johnson and Last Jedi, it's like he took Star Wars, and I think the same thing was Lauren was saying, and he injected his personal beliefs into it and said, I want it to go this way. And he turned the characters, because let's be honest here, there wasn't a lot of characterization in Force Awakens, but there was enough. But he still turned them into what he wanted. He took the character of Poe, which was supposed to be this heroic sort of pilot, and turned him into, you know, an asshole, basically, and then made every woman in the movie shout him down through the entire film. And it's like, you know, I understand like what he's trying to say. And I'm Cole today was talking about how fandom is like so, wants to take over the stories and say, no, that's not the way it's supposed to be. But I understand. Same thing with Game of Thrones. It's like, the stories are going in a certain direction, and because the person behind it of that particular episode decides to do left instead of right, in which we were going, I have a problem with that. It's not George Lucas deciding it. It's one person who walks into the middle of a series and says, we're going to go this way, when the whole time we were supposed to go the other way. And it's like, does it make it for interesting filmmaking? Sure. Does it work as an overall trilogy? I guess we're going to have to find out.
Mm.
Subverting expectations isn't really the issue. I think it's about, did you write it well? Did you set up those indicators, or was it just meant as pure shock? If it's just pure shock, you better be able to write that next 20 minutes of film really, really, really well.
Yeah.
In the case of something like, I've been on the record of saying, Last Jedi, the approach wasn't wrong. It's all the writing. The surprises could all have worked, but they're just slapdash, and they're one after another, and nothing seems to really, really have any repercussions. If you really think about it, it's just very sloppy writing, and they could have made it all work. But
it's like,
the movie is what it is.
When Rey gives Luke the lightsaber at the beginning, and he could have just taken it, looked at it, thrown it to the ground, walked away. But they went for that joke of woo, and it's just, and the whole audience laughed. And it works as a joke, but in reality, it's just like, it's just, I can understand why Mark Hamill would be upset, because it's not so much what happens, it's how it's done.
Right. Exactly. So the whole point is, this character basically went and hid himself on a planet somewhere. I don't know why I left a map behind, but that's a whole different issue. But, but he's hiding. Clearly, he doesn't want to train anyone. It was established. It was there. But then why do we just... Okay, so Chewbacca shows up and he changes his mind? Is that really all it took?
No, it was the Leia hologram, if I remember correctly.
Okay, well, then that's all it took. No one tried that before. And it all just is all convenience plot to have those shocking turn moments. It's just not good writing.
And when they arrive at the end of Force Awakens and she makes that long track up, it's clearly established in JJ's vision, this is an isolated island. And now in Last Jedi, we have all these little weird alien guys running around underneath, and it drives me nuts because we didn't see any evidence of that at the end of Force Awakens. And it's just little things like that. Piz talks about the little things that bother him. It's things like that. It's just I don't understand. Like does it work as the movie? Sure, but it clearly is Rian Johnson's movie that had nothing to do with The Force Awakens. He just took the characters and did what he wanted to do with it. There was no overall plan.
And that's, I think, where I differ from you guys to some extent, because I think if you look at it just not as its own thing, because obviously it's a part of a bigger series, but I haven't been as critical of it because I did like some of the bold things the movie did. Some say bold, some say dumb, but that's sort of where I come to it. Where I start to get more critical is when I say, it's like, okay, in of itself, yes, these are some bold choices, interesting, they did it. Now I have to slot this back into Star Wars canon. And it's like, well, wait a second. Now we have a ton of problems because things don't line up with The Force Awakens. Some of this quote unquote subversion like breaks the whole series. Like apparently light speed is a super powerful weapon that probably could have been used on those Death Stars that kept blowing up planets. Like that's sort of where I came into it, is that the movie in of itself I didn't think was that bad, and I enjoyed elements of it. It was just it's one part of a larger saga or series, whatever you want to call it.
It's like The Dark Knight Rises. While you watch it, you don't have a problem with it, but then afterwards you go, well, wait a minute.
Well,
That's a good way to put it. It's like you
to be
kind of
fair,
pulling it apart. Yeah.
to be fair, this is sort of the same conversation because the Star Wars is so deeply meaningful to people, right?
Yeah.
So most series can survive a film with missteps without major turmoil. Star Wars can't.
Right.
It's too central to how people identify themselves. So it's not so much that this film did things different. I really don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is it was underwritten or badly written, and I think that has more to do with scheduling than anything. To be honest with you, when you need to turn these things around in 2 years, considering the type of filmmaking they are, how long are they spending on that screenplay? Honestly,
Yeah.
if this is the kind of thing you want to get right, spend 6 to 8 months on it. But you can't on that kind of a timetable. But the truth is, it's almost with Star Wars. I think it's no win from here on out. I think that everything is going to be a failure to some degree, at least critically, with the fans, because you're never going to make all of them happy. And now that they've all voiced disapproval, they're all going to just bolt at the slightest thing they disapprove of. Which, if you think about Return of the Jedi, it has huge problems too, huge problems. But the fan base stuck with it because we weren't to that point in our society where that sense of ownership of these properties, it was that instilled.
I'm just waiting for Disney to finally follow through on the Han Solo dice motif that they're putting in every single one of their movies now that nobody even noticed once in the original trilogy.
Yeah. I actually think the only way Star Wars is going to get out of this spiral they've put themselves in is if they really start taking some chances. Like I don't remember if it was on here or maybe it was just something I read online, but would it be great to see like a Star Wars horror movie?
There's a book.
Like Star Wars universe, and again, it doesn't have to be people we know necessarily, but it's like, we're on planet Morab, I don't know. And it's a horror movie, but it's in Star Wars. So maybe people have hovercraft. I mean, I don't know, but like start like taking the Star Wars universe and showing us new different things about it. I really think that's the only way you're going to start to get some of that critical acclaim back from fans is by stuff like that.
They talked about that too when Disney first bought it. One of the ideas was that they were going to do like a Magnificent Seven on a planet, like just a standalone story. And I think that the thing is, though, is that while I like Disney overall, the fact is that when they call it a Star Wars story, it just sounds so 5-year-old-ish. I mean, it should just be Star Wars anthology films, a Star Wars story. It just sounds so dumb, like something you see in Target in like the little kids section. I don't know, and I think it was a big mistake to do Solo, and if not just in terms of the subject matter, I think it was a big mistake of the placement. If you're going to do Solo, if you're really going to do Solo, then you do it like a book, and you do it after Force Awakens. Solo is the next one that comes out, not Rogue One, because then it's like a book. It's like Han Solo dies, now we get a backstory.
Yeah,
and then The Last Jedi begins at his funeral, with everybody there.
I didn't even mind Solo that much. The problem with Solo was that it was mediocre. I would not rate that a bad movie. I wouldn't. It's not terrible, but it was just it was kind of a fun. I'd spent like an afternoon. I saw Solo, and it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
Some decent performances in it, some decent adventure, but it was not like some like, oh man, Solo was so great, man. Remember when he did? There was none of that. It was just kind of
because we already got the Han Solo movie. It was called not the Matthew McConaughey, but Joss Whedon's Serenity.
Yeah,
that is the Han Solo movie.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I feel like people don't. That's the Han Solo movie people really want. They want to see the Han Solo from the original Star Wars. And they've still never quite gotten him back, even though I think some of the filmmakers, because again, they sort of brought that back. Wasn't that the end of Solo, if I'm remembering correctly? Didn't he shoot the guy before he drew or something like that? I think they did kind of harken back to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think people were looking for the really cold, badass Han Solo before Lucas edited the hell out of it.
I think this upcoming Mandalorian is going to bring a lot of fans back.
That's my thought, is like, this to me, and again, we saw like a teaser, but this is the kind of idea I'm thinking about. Like, and we haven't seen it yet. Maybe it's going to be very conventional, but if it's not, if it's just a really good story in the Star Wars universe and, plays with some of those tropes, like, I think it could be a real good, like, way forward for the series. Just a thought.
I just think it's an emblem of where we're at. The truth is, this is a franchise that has outlived its welcome, but the fan base is only slowly letting it go. The truth is, are we saying that sci-fi fantasy begins and ends with a film made in 1977?
Well, what about what's going on with Star Trek Discovery? People are going ape shit over that thing.
Right. It's the same thing that what needs to be said with those franchises has been said. It would be great if the resources went into new stories which wouldn't have this baggage. You take Solo, right? The movie they made, and it's different character names, and there's no references to anything outwardly Star Wars. It would have been very well received. It's just time. It's time for us to let go of the 70s and 80s nostalgia play. It's not even working anymore. Not critically. It's not even working financially anymore. If Solo is an indication.
Well, the only quibble I would have with that, it's an interesting point, and you may not be wrong, but I think Star Wars and Star Trek are apples and oranges. I think Star Trek, by its very nature, is very forward-looking and should reinvent itself from time to time. I'm not sure that Discovery is the way I would do that, but that's a show where, that's a situation where I feel like that franchise can do different things and kind of push the envelope and play with new concepts. Star Wars, I think, feeds off of that nostalgia. It's funny. I think Star Trek keeps trying to go for nostalgia. That's why Discovery is another prequel. And it's a prequel, like, back in the era of the original, like, 60s type Star Trek, even though they changed everything. But I don't know that Star Trek works well to do that. The J.J. Abrams first movie, I thought, kind of did well enough, but I think that kind of gave everybody all they wanted from it. Star Wars, I think all it has is nostalgia. I still think there's probably good stories you can tell in that universe. Good stories, there's probably lots of things you could do. It's another case of, I'm not sure if the right people are running things to pull that out of it.
Yeah.
The question is whether there's an inherent value in setting things in that universe versus telling those same stories in a new universe where you get to create your own backdrop and your own, dynamics.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm thinking that all of it becomes baggage at a certain point. And maybe we walk into films with expectations that are unfulfillable. I mean, if a Friday the 13th ever does happen, right, and it will, all of us are going to walk in thinking final chapter, 1980, maybe Jason Lives. We're not walking in saying, I really hope this is remake, or I really hope this is whatever your least favorite is. It's harder for me to have this conversation with you guys, but you know what I'm saying, though.
As long as there's another shaving scene, I'm good.
No,
probably the bravest thing the series ever did. But again, why do people hate that scene? If it was in a different movie that wasn't called Friday 13th, is it a problem?
It's just.
But it wasn't called Friday the 13th.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
I know.
That's my whole point. I think sometimes these things just have lived too long. It creates more and more expectations and more fan tyranny. The fans get upset that they're not getting what's in their head. So why are we playing this game again?
Because it's easier to market Tron 3 with just a still of a black screen saying Tron 3, as a electrocycle, than actually doing some real marketing.
Right.
The IP sells itself.
You're 100% right. But is that when the big successes come, they usually come as new IPs, though.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like the Matrix, Avatar, yeah, sure. E.T. Think of those things that came out that really changed the industry, and they're usually not. They usually don't have numerals after their title.
Well, what would have happened? Sorry, Eric. What would have happened in the 80s if Halloween and Friday the 13th had not been made? what would have the horror scene been like if they hadn't had that to copy?
It might have been better or it might have been worse, but we wouldn't have the nostalgia that we have today.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have the sausage factory either.
That's probably true. I wanted to mention a couple other movies that I'm looking forward to that's coming out this year. I'm looking forward to the Joker movie. I'm looking forward to John Wick 3, to Child's Play, the new Child's Play film, and the new Godzilla movie, King of the Monsters. I think that looks pretty solid.
Also, if McDonald's and Subway never came out, we wouldn't have the sausage factory either. Hey Jay, are you asleep or can I get a real talk?
I was gonna say, is Jay, are you okay? Because he's been in that position for. I think he might be.
I think he's Tim Tebowing right now.
I think
he's frozen.
All right. Well,
I hope he's frozen and not like. Okay, here we go.
There we go. I knew you were there, Jay. He was just getting coffee. No biggie, guys. He's a fucking trooper. Jay never sleeps. You never catch him sleeping. All right, here we go.
Orc, hold on. Orc, why don't you give us an Orcs Corner?
All right, Orcs Corner. I was skeptical. Let me get this adjusted so you can see my pro face, 5 chins. I was skeptical about John Wick, 1 and 2, and I was like, fuck these movies. I don't want to watch them. And they were amazing. It was the most epic shit I've seen since the first Predator and since Die Hard. 1, 2, and 3. So John Wick 1 and 2 are badass, and you should see the third one when it comes out next week. Also, buy Mortal Kombat 11. It's dank as fuck. Now, this brings me into my next new segment, and it's called Orcs Dare Not Even Once. Don't ever watch this fucking film.
Which edit? The theatrical or extended?
Anyone. If he goes to Russia, just don't even fucking watch it. All right, and that's been an Orcs Corner. Have a great night.
Thank you for that, Orc. We appreciate that.
You mentioned Joker, Piz. We got way off topic when you started asking what we're looking forward to. I have kind of a morbid fascination with that movie. I don't know what to expect from it, but I'm kind of interested to see what it is.
Well, the trailer's a masterpiece.
It's a great trailer.
Yeah. So I have no idea. Like it's so weird, right? Like, I feel like these comic book movies, again, we were sort of talking about like what kind of stories can you tell in like the Star Wars universe. I kind of feel like there's room for more kinds of stories in like the superhero mold. And maybe Joker is an example of one where maybe that's an example where we're getting a different kind of because didn't they describe it as basically just like a guy's insane, like a journey into madness or something?
It's a Scorsese inspired thing.
Like a mental illness. And I don't know, it certainly looks interesting. And it's kind of cool that they're playing with the IP in a way that looks dynamic.
It's a standalone story, so it doesn't affect it. And which is going to be, I think, its biggest problem is I think people are going to fall in love with this, and then we're going to have to go back to Jared Leto.
Oh, God.
Because he's already coming back for the next Suicide Squad.
I didn't want to spoil this, but I'm sorry. Spoiler alert for the Joker movie. At the end, he walks into a movie theater. Oh, too soon.
Oh, dude.
Oh, my God. It took me a second to... Okay.
Hey, don't James Holm us now.
That's what we call a spicy meme here on the interwebs, ladies and gentlemen.
Gary Reeves asks in the chat, what do y'all think of Denis Villeneuve's next film, which is Dune?
Dune.
Any big Dune fans here?
I like Lynch's film. It's not perfect, but I like it. It's a tough novel to adapt.
I'm definitely a big fan of Denis Villeneuve. So pretty much anything he does, I'll watch.
I just have I just want it to be Dune. I don't want it to be a rival Blade Runner Dune. I don't want it to just feel like it's one of those films. I want it to feel like its own thing. If that makes any sense. I just think that he's gotten himself into a pattern with these sci-fi films where they all look the same.
Adam Bomb Cinema in 3D wants to know what our thoughts are on the film Arrival and Blade Runner 2049. Mitch talking about Denis Villeneuve. I loved Blade Runner 2049. Loved it, loved it, loved it. And I really liked Arrival too. I thought that was a great movie.
Didn't see Arrival. I like Blade Runner.
Arrival was good. I really enjoyed Arrival.
My probably most anticipated movie of this summer is Midsummer, the Ari Aster's follow up to The Witch.
Oh yeah,
Really?
mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I love the idea. I mean, he wanted to take horror movies out of dark spaces. So this is a brightly lit horror film, and I'm just fascinated by someone taking on that kind of a challenge. I mean, it's obviously the Wicker Man in concept, but I think it has an insanely cool look to the trailer. Even I think it follows that A24 mold of like breaking the mold.
Now what's it called again?
Midsummer.
Oh, Midsummer. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think I saw the trailer. I'm not sure if I did or not. I'll have to.
It's hard to do those good, daytime scares, but very effective when they're done right.
Yeah, and I've
Jamie.
liked. Sorry to cut you off, but I was going to say I've liked pretty much every A24 movie I've seen. So I mean, they're really coming out with very different, unique kinds of films.
Okay.
I think the Jamie Kennedy death in Scream 2 is probably one of the best daytime. Like, whoa! Like I didn't expect that to happen.
It's true.
I think that what A24 are doing is just treating the genre with respect. That's all they're doing. And I think that it's refreshing to see a studio that actually gives a crap.
And I want to see one movie they release where the Twitter doesn't have a argument for 3 days about is it a drama or is it a horror film?
Oh goodness!
Has the definitive daytime death. Let me
Well,
clear about that.
Okay. Hold on a minute, Eric. The Jerpian, our an old friend of the show, has put in a request.
Ooh.
He wants to see an Eazy-E's fondest movie memory. We've not had one of those in a while. So we've got you here. We need an Eazy-E's fondest movie memory.
I actually have one because I remember the last time you were putting me on the spot, I thought of one in advance, and then we never did it. So in honor of the 39th anniversary of Friday the 13th, this is not about the original, but when I was first watching my way through the Friday the 13th series, I was a kid. Like I was, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 or so. So by the time I got to part 6, sometimes my parents would watch with me, and that was always fun. And in just true American values, they were okay with all the violence, but not so much with the sex. And so if we all remember, in part 6, there's that sex scene in the trailer where she's basically jumping on him in comical fashion. And I remember it came on, and so my mom was going to fast forward it. But the thing is the way that scene was, I felt like fast forwarding it made it worse because our fast forward still sort of had the image just sped up. So rather than just sort of rocking the way she was, she's like, and I just remember it's such a vivid memory in my mind. I was on our old we had one of those old TVs that was big console kind of TV. And I just remember fast forward that, and it did not have the effect I think she intended to skip past.
Because there's not a lot of cuts. It's just that one wide image, and so when you're fast forwarding it, it's just her gyrating up and down.
And again, it's so much faster and graphic.
That's
So yeah, I just I hope Jerpin that satisfies your need.
So you watched Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning with your parents?
That one I didn't. I forget how I got away with watching that one without them. Some of them, because what we would do is, I think we've talked about this, is every Friday we would go down to the video store, and my mom and dad would usually get the new movie that was out. We kind of had a family situation. We didn't get to go out to the movies a lot when I was younger. So when my parents could see newer movies, it was typically what they could get out of the video store. So they would usually get something new, and I would kind of peruse the video store to, I don't know, find something I haven't seen. I mean, that's how I basically watched all the Star Trek movies, all the other horror films, other various series. And I think what probably happened is I was working my way through the Friday the 13th series, and I used to get like 2 at a time. So I probably got like 1 and 2, then 3 and 4, and I probably got like 5 and 6. And while my parents were watching their movie on Friday night, I probably watched part 5 because I had a VCR in my bedroom. And that's probably where I got to enjoy Deborah Voorhees in all her glory. And then part 6, I think I probably watched like Saturday, and that might have been where I got caught. I don't remember that specifically, but I know I did not watch part 5 originally with them. Good question though.
Very cool. Very cool. So Jerpian, that was for you, man. Hope you enjoyed it. Jerpian says thank you, Eric.
I appreciate it.
Oh goodness, well, let's call it a night, guys. We've been going for about 3 hours, actually over 3 hours, but we've had a lively discussion, as we always do. But
can we tag Ryan Johnson and Ben F. and Weiss on the Twitter so that we can get retweeted with a nasty comment from them?
Sure.
I don't want our channel to get shut down.
Let me give some shout outs to the people who are still with us tonight. Jerpian, of course, our old buddy Jerpian Steak Sauce, Pierce Nightshade, Atom Bomb Cinema in 3D, Gary Reeves or Revez, Manny Gatillo, Resurrection Reviews, our old buddy Steve, and Steve himself, Mr. McNuggets, Barbecue Network. Looks like Cole was in the chat at one point, hanging out with us tonight. Movie Man 95, Borderline 11, OG, Josh O'Brien. Of course, Cole is gay. He hopped in for a brief period of time. But yeah, and a big thanks to all you guys for hanging out tonight and talking movies and television with me. So we will return again shortly. And until then, you guys have a great week. And yeah, peace.